And we're live. Hello and welcome to the 86th episode of Game Theory Gang. I'm Maddie Allen with ChrispyMan of hexfire.io and special guest Codeak, founder of Comm Token, and Jonni Sachs, the creator of the Hex secret weapon. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Happy to have you guys here.
I can never get Sami to come on live, but I assumed that Codeak didn't do interviews, and then I heard him on Corey Costa's channel, and it was a really great interview. And so I know we're gonna have a great show tonight. I want to thank you guys for coming. Everybody in the audience, thousands watching on replay, hit the like and subscribe button. Thanks for being here. Make sure you claim your comm at hexcommunity.com, my referral link. I get 1% and you get the same amount of comm. Is that how the referral system works?
So the referral system is you can think of it as a 1% addition to the total supply of comm. And you get that referral plus 1%. It's additional, not subtracted from the person who's claiming their stake or their bonuses. So it's either on your start bonus or your end bonus.
I think that's really cool. And it seems like something that continues on as long as you're a Hex staker, you would qualify, as long as you have an open Hex stake. So whether you started it on day one or you started it whatever day today is, 1400 or something.
Yeah.
But or if you start a stake in the future, you can always go and claim your comm at hexcommunity.com.
Yeah, I thought the referral system in Hex was such a smart idea. I mean, I loved it, and the only thing I think maybe we all felt this is that maybe it was too much. It almost felt like, maybe it hurt if you didn't self-refer.
Oh yeah.
So I think 1%. To inflate the entire supply for 1% to entice people to actually, to do what you're doing, refer people. I think it's a great trade-off.
Well, I didn't get anything in the Hex referral system other than my own self referrals when I remembered to do it. So it's
Right.
it's nice to be in the game, and of course this channel doesn't sell out its audience, so that makes it harder during a bear market too. So I appreciate all of you. I think there's clearly been a lot of people claiming, and so you went ahead and you had gotten an audit as well. So it's pretty clear that basically the findings were that it's safe for people to claim their comm. Is that correct?
Yep. So we got an audit before we launched, had an audit done. And there's no pre-mine, there's no admin keys, there's no OA that I'm pretending to not be, stuff like that. So yeah, no, it's for the community. It's a tool for the community.
Should also bring up that Pulse Police has done a review on it. You can find it in the Pulse Police review channel.
Wow.
Marked as no red flags, but that goes back a long time. But in case anybody hasn't seen that, you can go look and see.
Very cool.
Yeah, I know. I think it's been 11 months or so. No, how long? It was released in January, right? So, yeah, almost a year.
Codeak, can you give us a little bit of a run through of what the game theory is here, with the token, the smart contract that you created?
Yeah, for sure. So Communis is tokenized shares designed to perpetuate its own rarity by incentivizing better staking behavior. That's kind of a mouthful, but the distribution model touches all the ways that you interact with staking Hex. So with Comm, you get a bonus for starting, you get a bonus for ending or fulfilling your promise, your hex stake promise. And then there's a restake bonus and a good accounting bonus, and then a staking Communis bonus. So I guess we could start with the start bonus. The start bonus is, as it sounds, a bonus for after you lock in your hex stake. You get 10 to 25% of, hold on. Sorry. So every stake has an associated max payout that is behind it. So you get 100% of that max payout in Comm with your end bonus, and then the start bonus is 10 to 25%, depending on how long your stake is.
Mm-hmm. No minimum length on stakes to get bonuses, the start bonus.
Yeah, so there's a few requirements. So for the start bonus, it's a minimum of 180 days, and for the end bonus, it's a minimum of 365 days. But yeah, that's the simple of it. It just gets more and more complicated, I think. If you understand the share system in Hex, then you'll probably understand Comm in a similar way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so my oversimplified view on it, Codeak, is from talking with you early on when you created it and everything. So a lot of folks maybe weren't around or don't remember that we had traveled down this path with Richard Hart about the idea that time in the market is greater than timing the market, and that the best crypto gains have been seen by holding longer than everyone else. And so then when we take that step, then of course the Hex staking / mining contract was put together, right? Which then transformed into, well, I can now stake and get even more, right? Because I get part of that inflation. And then because the incentive there is to go out as long as possible. But I think even Richard might have said this at one point, right? Like Quattro Cinco is the best, right? Because you get the most hex. If you're playing the game of get the most hex, then you put everything you can out Quattro Cinco. But reality of life and the reality of crypto and all of our circumstances is that probably isn't the best risk-adjusted methodology just to go all the way out to Quattro Cinco with everything, because people would like to get their crypto sooner. And so the staking ladder is the next best thing. And the staking ladder is a staking ladder where you have a certain amount of hex coming out over a period of time, typically leaning a little heavier towards the later years, so you get the best APY. And so then how you explained it to me, and I took it from all your documentation, is the Comm token reward is meant to reward those people who get it, and to give incentive to people who will now know that they should be looking at longer time frames in their rungs, and they'll get rewarded with Comm, which they can do whatever they want to or with afterwards. And of course, you have a lot more built into it. And one last thing as we talk about this, the 180 days and the 365 days aren't by accident, right? I mean, you actually put those in that contract for a reason. And if we go look also at what happens with T-share rate as it goes up and to the right, you can also see that people get treated better with rewards if they go out at least a year or longer. I mean, clearly, I mean, you could pick any number and say, hey, you go out longer, you'll do better. But I think Access the other day was looking at one of the charts that I'd put together, and we were pinpointing like year 3 is like pivotal. That's a real big year. But certainly you'll get a lot more if 20% more if you go out 2 years versus a year, and you get 20% more T-shares if you go out a year versus 1 day. Right. Anyways, just kind of like capping that off. It's all built to give us the incentive to keep our ladders up.
Right. So the actual amount that's distributed depends on how much Hex you locked your stake was and how long, right? So you get more Comm, like disproportionately more as you go towards the max stake length.
So if I could jump in and actually add something to this. So what
Go, Jonni, go. Go, Jonni, go.
Let's do it, man, because there's major innovation here that really deserves a lot of credit, and it deserves for Hex holders to actually adopt this and use it. Cryptocurrencies are only as useful as they're adopted. So far, to date, Comm has not been adopted yet by the Hex holders, and that should change. And there's many reasons why that we're going to be talking about. One of the innovations here is that when you talk about the TShares that you get in Hex for staking longer, so that bonus that you get for the longer pays better in Hex, that's a linear increase. So each additional year, as ChrispyMan mentioned, gives you 20% more shares than for staking 1 year less. So that is a linear increase, 20% per year, all the way up to the 10-year mark, where it maxes out at a 3x more shares. So if you stake in Hex for 10 years, you get 3 times the shares that you would get for a 1 year stake. The innovation here with that Codeak has done with Comm is that instead of a linear increase in bonus reward, you're actually getting a parabolic increase in your reward for staking longer. So you get much more reward in Comm for staking longer than what you do in Hex. And the other major innovation here is that Codeak actually unlocked the TShare cap, the bonus cap. So the
longer
bonus,
pays better. Yeah.
So that longer pays better bonus that caps out at the 10-year mark. Well, stakers are actually able to stake up to 15 years. But when you stake 15 years instead of 10 years, you still get that same bonus that the 10-year stakers get. It's just that you carry that bonus for longer. And so what's important to note about Comm is that you actually do get additional bonus rewards for staking beyond the 10-year mark to a large degree. And so in Comm, you actually end up getting for a 15-year stake 3 times as much Comm rewards as you would get for a 10-year stake. So that's a huge difference, because that's the difference between the 15-year and the 10-year. And then, when you get into looking at the difference from year over year, a 1-year staker, a 2-year staker is going to get Comm rewards 4 times as much rewards in the bonus as a 1-year staker. So again, that's a 2-year staker gets 4 times as much as a 1-year staker, and a 3-year staker gets 2.5 times as much as a 2-year staker. So these increases are parabolic, and it is incentivizing that stakers basically have to think twice when they stake now. So if this Comm gets adopted the way it deserves to be, it is going to force a second thought when a staker goes to stake in Hex. Right now, a staker goes to stake in Hex, and they are, they're met with the challenge of thinking, okay, in terms of how much rewards do I want to get for staking longer? And that's just one thought. But now they have to think twice. They have to say, wait, but the Comm reward is going to be so much more if I stake even longer than I originally was planning to. And now they have to weigh that out. And so that is a huge difference, because it sets up a system where you are pushing those staking durations longer out into the future. And if this gets adopted the way that it deserves to be, you're going to have a situation where the global average stake length is virtually brute forced to go beyond the average. Right now, as it stands in Hex, we have a situation where the global average stake length is actually getting lower. Now, the data, when you look at it, it's actually fooling you a bit. So we can take a look at this. And Maddie, you can let me know when you want to get into kind of dive into the data here. But you can take a look at Hex daily stats today. Just making sure I got that URL right. hexstats.today. And you can look at the column that is the average mining length in years. Now that column has been holding steady at around 7 years. So the average stake length has steadily been at around 7 years. However, it's fooling you a bit. And the reason it's fooling you a bit is because that's based on the stakes that are being opened. It's not counting it if the amount of stakes being opened is reduced. So that's a key point there. Another thing to mention is that we're talking about the average. And what can happen when you look at averages is that you get that the larger sums that are part of that data, those are heavily weighing into the data to show you something. So for example, a large whale with say 200 million hex stakes out to the average length. He's pushing the global length towards that average more than the smaller holder. So the better data point, in my opinion, to look at is actually not the average stake length, but the median stake length.
Mm.
And we'll be able to take a look at that, because if you look at the median stake lengths in Hex, the way that it's been trending, it has been going down quite a bit.
Yeah.
And we'll be able to take a look at those numbers. So I just want to make the major point here that if you want to see Hex becoming more valuable over time, we need to see the average stake length increasing, not decreasing. And we have a system with this Hex Comm fusion that I'm calling it, where if this is supported and adopted by the community, you are virtually brute forcing the global average stake length to rise.
Let me make sure I understood what you said though, too, and we're on the same page. We see this number a lot, and this average stake length number. That is the average of all open stakes and how long those stakes are staked for. All right, so that's the number, and that's why some of it's a little bit misleading, because we have very many Cuatro Cinco stakes, right, that were made early. They are still open. Short stakes are not open. They've been closed. And so what we're seeing with these numbers, just kind of feed this back to you, make sure we're on the same page, is that we're seeing more short staking, right? And not as much of the long staking. And so that average is just slowly floating downwards. And of course, it's coming down faster on PulseChain. Why? Because there's more activity on PulseChain, and people are just leaving their EHEX stakes in place. And so I'm right there with you. And I would say the median is a good number to go after. The other one we've talked about on this channel before is the average remaining days on stakes, which is just about a year less than the 7-year number, right? Roughly year and year, 1.2 years. They're both really good indicators, I think.
Yeah, so it's very important that we we know that in crypto, a lot of the times these tokens, they have a lot of initial demand. They have this wave of demand in the early days, and then that demand fades over time, and it becomes a little difficult to continue to see demand outpace supply. So we have a situation kind of matching that same tendency in Hex right now, because you see that the demand was high when things when Hex initially launched. We had the most amount of stakes being started when Hex was its youngest in its phase of its lifetime. So in order to kind of change the course of things and see, a rising global stake length, more stakes being opened, you have to ask yourself, what are the incentives to cause that? We have a system now that is going to give us the incentives that we would need in order to change that course. And yeah, whenever we want to dive into the data on this, I do have a few things we can look at.
Yeah,
I want to make sure. I want to make sure we hear from Codeak about all the game theory that's involved here before we get into the further complexities. I wrote off Comm originally because I thought it was too complex, and even though I liked what it was doing, and you know, so luckily now you all have brought it back to my attention, and I'm able to see more of the brilliance behind it, thanks to what Codeak has put together, thanks to what Jonny's put together. And
man,
you know, but ChrispyMan,
you're making me feel bad.
ChrispyMan was the one who told me to start playing with it again. See, but the problem there, Crispy, is when I started playing with it, I sold a little bit. Okay. And
okay.
so then I had to buy back what I had sold. All right. Once I understood it.
Yeah.
So that's, but you also get credit for bringing it to my attention, being a true believer in Comm all along. I got to give you all credit.
I'll throw this at you. Well, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with it, and I certainly didn't anticipate Jonni Sachs coming along. But you know, from day one of launch, I've been picking up as much Comm as I can stand to buy.
Now, of course, Crispy's ahead of the game.
Now, why? But why? Why? So I'll just 2 seconds on this. The reason why is that Comm is in support of Hex. That's why. No other reason. I didn't think necessarily that it would, you know, go through the roof price wise or anything like that. But what I would like is that there be a market for Comm. That's it.
Yeah, and we, you know, there's a lot of meme coins that come out, and a lot of people enjoy those and like to, you know, trade meme coins. So why not trade a coin, even if you don't understand what's going on with the complexities of it, and if you don't understand the actual value proposition of it, you could at minimum look at it as a meme coin that is tradable. And, you know, why not trade a meme coin, if you want to look at it that way? Why not trade one that is attached to the system that you already love, which is Hex? So, you know, if in the process of trading this, without looking any deeper, any further into the value proposition, just the fact of adding it to your kind of watch list of something you would trade as you would trade any other coins, you're adding value in doing that. And you're adding value to what you already have and love, which is Hex.
I also want to point out a value add is, look, I know everybody's got fatigue when it comes to people not showing their faces in terms of people who create meme coins and pump and dumps and stuff like that. But I didn't show my face when I started streaming. Axis Live didn't show his face when he started streaming. Silver the Antidote didn't show his face. Codeak is a known member of the Hex community from the early days, where try to go do good accounting without what Codeak built with backuphex.com. You can't do it unless you're a programmer. So there's a level of understanding that we all have, and a level of trust where we can verify and we can look at people's contributions over the years. You know, Codeak didn't even give himself a special allocation of the token he created. So I don't know how you can do much better than that. And I respect people even if they don't show their face based on the actions that they take. So I would like to definitely shout out to Codeak for being such a stand-up guy.
I'm second thinking. I'm second thinking showing my face today, because I obviously just woke up and I look fucking more insane than usual. But I couldn't miss out hopping on with Jonni again, and you know, of course, you and Crispy. But I was super stoked that you landed Codeak. It's like I reach out. I was gonna reach out. I figured Matty had it on lock. If he didn't, he'd ask. But super happy to have you on, man. I know we talked when you guys first started off. I'm breaking my streak of having people on to talk about their thing, and then me being like, I'm stupid. I didn't even read about it until 5 minutes before the stream. So it's like I actually know something about Comm, but it's one of those deals where it's like it's almost like people that have longer staking ladders. It's like you go back to end a stake, and you're like, wait, how do I do this again? And Comm's a little more complex. So super happy to be here with you. Super happy that you're going to be on stream, especially with Jonni Sachs after he was on last week with us, talking about kind of like this new and improved way to look at what you created, and really looking forward to kind of diving in to help myself and others more fully and understand the debt portion of all that. I understand what it incentivizes,
for sure,
but just exactly how all that works. But welcome, man. Sorry for being late. Sorry for looking crazier than usual. It's like
I don't mind. No, I don't mind. Yeah, I think this could, I think this is a scalable solution to actually onboarding stakers. If you think of your alternatives, you have to really, really explain the nuances of staking, or try to take a shortcut and just kind of say, hey, you'll get paid more, with staking longer. Just don't think, just don't worry about it. Or making a stake and then giving it to them, or so I'm definitely excited to continue talking about this and explaining any of the aspects or game theories that went into this.
I would say this,
because I got a couple of questions, but go ahead.
I just want to say this. So for everybody else, I said this in the green room too. I don't think that I would have the Hexfire site if it wasn't for Codeak. You certainly had a significant amount of influence in that, because he is one of the guys that made data available. So when we talk about data and that type of stuff in support of Hex, when Maddie talks about it, we're talking about 2019 guys, right? So Codeak's been a consistent member of the team in terms of the community. There's no team, but they've been part of the community. Hex Daily. I mean, the amount of time that you invested in supporting Tagash and Ryan Lopez with Hex Daily stats wouldn't have happened. I mean, sure, we could have done some other stuff other ways, right? But anyways, what I'm saying is a lot of what we have going for us, and you kind of set a standard, has been due to a lot of the work that you did, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Speaking of Ryan Lopez, $20 super chat. Thank you. He says Comm has huge potential. Very excited to hear about it. Johnny's doing a great job integrating Comm with legacy finance technologies, and Codeak is an amazing dev. # go Hex.
Nice.
Shout out Ryan
Lopez.
Go ahead, Codeak. I'm sorry.
No, what was I saying? Yeah, I've been in the background. I don't have any socials or anything when I'm developing. So I've been here from the beginning. So helping out other developers with whatever
social skills is all. Social skills is all I got, and it's not a lot. So I would much rather have your skill set. It's like, I remember our early conversations, man, and you were just so nice and really took time with me, like during what would have been a crazily busy time for you, because it's like I didn't really know anything about it until it launched, and then the scramble was on. But yeah, again, it's like to kind of parrot what Crispy was saying. It's like, kudos to you. It's like I know a bit of your history as far as just being around for a long time. Definitely respect your privacy and choosing not to be what's Funding Jim call forward facing at this point. But hey, security is paramount. I get it. It makes sense. There are times I regret unveiling that to the world, but here we are. Sure. And that's how it goes. But I did have a couple of questions for you specifically, because I mean, unless you've got like a whole PowerPoint like Jonni had for us last week,
No.
which I trounce. My thing with the debt system, and this is, I'm here for a reason, Jonni. He puts me on because he knows I'm always going to be the dumbest guy on the screen. So then that way it helps with the demographic spread of the audience. So I'm going to be the guy that I don't care if I look stupid asking the dumb questions. So it's good. I just own it. But so my own tiny midget brain understanding of it is, if you end your stake, then you have a certain amount of Comm that you have an opportunity to claim or to stake, right? Or, I'm sorry, when you start your Hex stake, you have an opportunity to do an early start bonus of Comm that you can then just mint into existence and have liquid and earn no yield, or you can stake it, earn a nominal 5% yield. But the bigger part of that is by not having it staked, it incurs a debt. And then that debt balance, you have to have more staked Comm overall on that particular account, and able to fully claim your end bonuses. Is that, in a nutshell, accurate?
It's like 70%.
Okay, all right. Well, it's a start, right? So it's good. It's like
yeah. Oh, for
it's
sure.
like it's like your kid asking you, like, why is the sky blue? And then then you start and then explain.
Start somewhere, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So the debt system is only on end bonuses, which a majority of the Comm comes out in your end bonus.
Yes.
Yeah. So the debt system is the entire purpose is for the contract to defend itself from permadumpers, right? So when you claim your end bonus, no matter how much you stake, you will incur debt. Okay, so if it's 100, you're claiming for 100 from your end bonus. You could choose to stake, 0% of that 100 or 100% as a staked Communis or staked Comm, but 50 will always be accumulated as debt.
Got it. Okay, so you got kind of a double dinger going on here. So not only are you incentivizing people to lock up that start bonus to kind of help minimize the debt, but then even so, on the back end, when you mint your end bonus, 50% of that's going to debt anyhow. And the only way you can stay ahead of that is by staking more for longer. Am I up to like 80%?
So let's just talk end bonus for now, because the start bonus, you can always claim your start bonuses, always. And in fact, you can because you can stake your start bonuses. If you do get into debt, then you can use the start bonus to climb yourself out of debt, right? But so the end bonus. So let's say you're claiming for 100. No matter what, 50 is going to be accumulated into debt, which includes any, it's plus 50 to whatever you already have. So then if you don't stake that amount of 50, which in this case is staking 50% as well, you will be locked out from further end bonuses, which is where a majority of Comm comes out of.
Got it. So you have to carry no debt, or your basically your staked amount has to outweigh your debt, or that's
right.
when
you always have your debt.
Got it.
That stays with you for as long as you're claiming, right?
It's like death and taxes. It's something you can't get away from. But but death and taxes, I don't know about the purpose on those, but the purpose is always to incentivize better staking behavior, so people understand, like, hey, you want to push this out long. Not only by doing so are we going to all benefit, but you also personally will benefit, because you're going to have some yield, and you're going to be able to continue to participate in the system by claiming and minting that end bonus, because you've kept your debt to income ratio in check.
Right. And you always want better holders, right? You want your contract to defend itself and refine itself. You don't want it to just continue letting you mint something you don't actually want, right? So that's the idea.
It acts in a big way. One of the big criticisms I've heard and seen about Comm, right? Down only token, because it's a reward token. What are people going to do but sell it, right? Okay, so there's that concern. And then the other big concern is, sure, Jonni has this great idea with LP, but people are just going to drain the LP. And to some extent, that's always true, right? If a market maker makes a market, it's there for that purpose, right? People are going to take the money. But what you're saying is Communis is specifically designed, right, to help mitigate that. And so if you know what, if you're going to
Much
be
as
that
possible.
type of,
Yeah.
if you're going to be that kind of staker, okay, maybe you get your beak wet with a start bonus, but you're probably not getting any bonuses, and you're not going to be able to hurt the system more later.
Yeah. Why continue letting you win something you don't want? So,
Mhm.
yeah. Yep.
Yeah, the thing I found kind of refreshing about Johnny's take on it was it's kind of what do they call it? It's not a bait and switch because that sounds terrible, but it's kind of like giving someone their first crack rock for free, and then they just keep coming back for more. Well, no, that's what happened to. Wait, okay, strike two. Let me rethink this. I guess I got a crispy groan. I'm winning. So here's the thing that I'm thinking about, John, right? Is that you're telling people about, hey, not only here's Hex, here's TShares, here's setting up your security, here's where you can find it on Ethereum. If you want to go the extra mile, here's how you bridge it over and get it on PulseChain. Here's how you can buy directly on PulseChain. Go through all those things, and you're like, oh, by the way, there's also this thing called Comm that just because you're getting TShares from staking your Hex, you're going to get for free. And effectively, it's a coupon. So you're more or less, you're kind of showing them, hey, you can get this stuff and like just buy more Hex. So you're increasing your bag of Hex for free right off the rip. In a nutshell, Johnny, there. Nutshell.
Yeah. So.
Well, yes or no, and then I'll be out, and then I'll stop.
Just summarize your question real quick for me.
Yes.
If you will, just the question real quick. Summarize.
Me? Summarize? Yeah. What?
So
you're asking basically, this is like a carrot on the stick kind of thing. Right?
Yeah, bingo. Thank you. That's a better analogy. Yeah. So basically, when people are in the system, kind of like with TShares, like Bree famously taught me like how to really do a staking ladder. Like I had no idea. My original stakes were ridiculous. It looked like I just took a handful of gravel and like threw it in a snowbank or something. It was nuts. And paid the price for that later with like stupidly small stakes that weren't worth ending, and then others that were like back to back to back to back, and then I'm getting hammered with all these fees. But over time, I learned about the power of it, and then guys like Crispy come along and really shine a light, and then you dig into it, and then you understand like the mechanics of it all. So I think that was the thing I liked about Jonni, because it's like you're almost fooling somebody into doing a smart thing, right? Because it's like then they're in, and then they have an opportunity, just like with Hex. How many Hex stakers are staked, right? There's a lot of them. They rather do like a maxi thing, right? They don't want to think about a staking ladder. They don't want to do those extra pieces. So there's always going to be that attrition rate of like who you're onboarding. But it's like, I think it's important to update our onboarding methodology to include, if we're going to tell them about TShares, we need to tell them about Comm, right? And like explain that. And Jonni, just a quick aside, and then I'll zip it for a minute. I saw you catching some heat on Twitter, dude. I think you did a great job staying above the fray. That stuff is always going to be out there because it's people that don't want to take the extra effort to understand. It's kind of like prejudice, right? Like if you don't understand a culture or a people or a person, it's easy to just prejudge them, right? And then just like throw out aspersions because you don't fully understand or maybe even care to. So that kind of stuff's really discouraging for me when I see people like go on the attack when they obviously haven't done any research. And it's like, so what? It's like, we've all got bags. Does that mean we're bad guys for talking about this stuff? No, we've disclosed that. And here's why we're excited about it. That's it, right? So good for you for staying out of that nonsense. And, and to everybody out there, ghost the trolls, man. It's like, there's always going to be people that it's like, they feel smart by shitting on nerdy dudes like us that are trying to parse this out for people, and let them be the dummies, right? And then, we'll keep on educating to the best of our ability the people that want to be educated. And thank you.
Yeah, this is probably as nerdy. This is probably as nerdy as it gets, right?
Right? Yeah, it's like, I love it.
I got a fun game we can play. So I'm gonna ask a multiple choice question. And Codeak and Jonni can try to answer at the same time, and we'll see if they give the same answer. So my question is, as a person on YouTube who loves Comm, and wants people to claim using hexcommunity.com, I'm going to, of course, make a tutorial to walk people through the steps of how to claim Comm. And so when I do this, when I make the video, what button should I recommend people click on in terms of how much of their Comm that they stake off the bat with their start bonus? Should it be 0%, 25%, 50%, 75%, or 100%? And we'll go on 3 when you guys have your answer ready. What's the best way to play the game? 1, 2, 3, go.
0%.
To stake?
Yes.
Sorry, to stake.
What button should be pressed? 0%, 25%, 50%.
Sorry, I would say 100% because you can always just withdraw whenever you actually need it. There's no penalty to the withdrawal, right?
That's
okay.
That's a great point.
Passive income.
It's one way. So if you don't stake it, well, then that's it, right? So, but if you just want it parked 100%, and then when you have a reason to withdraw, well, then you do it, right? That's kind of how the system's designed.
So that's a great point. There's no penalty for unstaking. So in that case, yeah, it should be always 100%. The reason
besides, you can't go back, right? That's kind of, it's not a penalty, but it's a stipulation of,
right.
Yeah.
So Crispy didn't dupe me. Like that's what he told me earlier on. He goes, your best bet is stake it all, idiot. just stake it. You'll figure it out. Keep digging away. So you'll get.
I don't think I ID 10T'd you, but maybe.
No. I do that enough to myself, so it's all good.
But I'm curious about the 0. So I guess it depends what we're talking about. Because if you talk about start bonuses versus end bonuses, but Jonni, what did you mean by 0?
Sure. Yeah, the reason I would say 0% is in the case of Maddie when he's trying to onboard somebody to Hex, and he's using this quote unquote carrot on the stick to say that you can get some of your value back when you make a stake. I think that if it's a new user that he's onboarding, somebody who has never participated in Hex before, then I think they should claim their reward and actually take the reward because that's what got them in. Now, in the case of legacy holders who already are well aware of Hex, well aware of staking, well aware of all of these things, then they should, in my opinion, do the 100% stake. And in my opinion, actually, legacy stakers of Hex who are already Hex holders, who already are well aware of the Hex system, this is a never sell coin for those users, in my opinion. Okay, so for all users who are already aware of Hex, it should be a never sell coin. I'll explain more into that. I'm going to let Maddie continue this game of our multiple choice questions, but we need to drive that point home because there's very many reasons why this should be a never sell coin for the users who are already aware of Hex. Now, it doesn't have to be for this to work, but if you want it to work optimally, that's the best approach. Because the actual gains that you would be looking to make as a Hex user, the gains should come from the Hex side, not the Comm side.
Oh, you're gonna have to explain that.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah, I mean, this whole thing is made for Hex, right? Hexagons, right? So it's like, well, who would care most, right? You would think. So.
Another thing I wanted to ask you, Codeak, has to do with, I guess, the design intention and philosophy that you had with Communis. I got the hint from your stream with Corey Costa that you don't like tradable stakes. So I wanted to hear a little bit more about that because I don't like them either.
Well, it's not that they don't have its place, but when you're designing something that incentivizes good staking behavior, how can you design it around something that they don't own, right? So they're going to create a sellable stake and then, sell it on the market right after, like they're not going to be the owner by the time the end bonus comes around, right? So you can't game theory around something that is not predictable.
It's not
I guess
locked.
you would say.
Yeah.
There's no commitment. So I don't know how much I want to say.
Does Toby know he's on mute?
It's probably better, because I was going off for a second there. I'm like, just tell them what they are. They're losers. They're losers. They don't understand long-term anything. They don't delay gratification. They destroy their lives and the lives of other people because they don't understand the long-term principles of this shit. And if you start parsing it up into little HSIs that they can just trade to some other person with a higher risk or higher appetite risk, then what are we doing here? We can't figure any of this shit out if it's just, all that.
I wouldn't say all that, but what I would say is the actual beauty of a hex stake is not in its it's not in the measurable principal plus interest. It's actually in the social bond that's created, right, between the user and the coin. And I would say it's at least 80% of the true value from a hex stake is from that bond, right?
Yeah.
Stickiness, right?
But it's really immeasurable, because you get people like Maddie, you get people like me, you get people like Jonni, everybody, right? So
people like me,
like Toby and Crispy and anyone else who wants to be.
Dude, not financial advice, but it's like, don't mortgage your house to buy crypto, don't take out equity lines, and don't get cash advances on your credit cards. Because I've done all of those things at various points throughout this journey. So, however, it's like, it's all math, right? At the end of the day. So it's like, I'm not saying it's always a bad idea, but typically it's a bad idea. So don't do that. But but it's like,
but this is a hot take that Codeak is saying, and I want to hear more about it, because it's like, this is not what everybody knows, and it's not one of the main talking points, but it's something that I also believe to be very true, that the human resources and everything that exists because of time locking. Look, we have thousands of people tuning into streams during a bear market when our numbers are tapping up against the major Bitcoin channels numbers, and far fewer people have heard of Hex than of Bitcoin. So that shows you that people are sticking around. We're down more than Bitcoin. We're down 99% at times, and people are still here. So Codeak has, I believe, named Communis after this idea of community. Tell us more.
Yeah, and if we could just correct the pronunciation, it is Communis.
Communis.
All right.
Sorry about that, man.
I'll just call it Comm.
Got it.
Yeah, not a big deal. What was I going to say? No, I forgot what I was going to say.
Sorry.
No, I think most people actually really don't realize how behavioral based crypto is. It's a lot of tech, right? But really, it boils down to the
that's why the word stickiness came to mind, and that's the thing that made me feel good about you as being another product. Like initially, I'm always skeptical. Like, I don't know, man. It's like, is this net beneficial? Yeah. But it's like, but the community idea and how it really goes through, like no pre-allocation, no pre-mine, none of that stuff. Like truly, like
the only reason, by the way, I could do that, easily is because I'm a staker. Like I don't do anything. Like I'm just a staker, so I don't need to try to pander to to do a meme coin, right? Like I wasn't incentivized to do a meme coin. I was incentivized to get more people to stake, right? So
hell yeah,
it's really immeasurable value. So
and in my not so tongue-in-cheek way, with all the hyperbole around like how you get more money to put in, it's an extreme example of stickiness, right? Because it's like that was my whole rant on that, Maddie. Is like, I think, well, number one, it's like you guys are all stuck with me. Would a guy like me have a friend in real life? I don't know, maybe, possibly, but it's like now we're here together for 15 years. So that's a great thing. So you're stuck with me. I'm stuck in Hex primarily because of community, and also this idea that you guys are doing a much better job of explaining than I am, which Maddie, I think there was what's the precursor to stickiness? Like something stickiness. What's the term?
Speculative stickiness.
Speculative stickiness. So there's that stickiness, but I wouldn't say this is speculative stickiness. This is some other flavor of stickiness, maybe. but yeah, it definitely like keeps you in there for the long term and gets, for me, I can't speak for everyone, but it gets me hungrier to learn more about it and understand it. And then when you see it, like when I saw Bree's spreadsheet and understood the difference, the giant difference between a 15-year stake and a 10-year stake, like when you're thinking like, it's like, is it? And it's like, oh my God, it's like exponential explosion at that point as far as like power T-shirt, like all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm super geeked about all of it. And I love that there's these kind of things that are available out there for people. And yeah, maybe it's a little deeper dive and it takes you a little time to learn it, but it's like worth it. And it's like, and not saying anything that we're talking about are meme coins or shit coins or whatever. Richard Hart himself said, you know, in a bull market, even shit pumps, right? So it's like people are down on Hedron being down. People talk about Communis being so cheap. Yeah, but it's like pretty good shot that all this stuff, you know, raising tide's going to rise all the boats. So it's like if you're just in it for the gains and not so much the tech or the social aspects, still something something worth taking a look at. You know, not financial advice. I mean, who would take financial advice from that? But it's like not financial advice.
Calling my lawyer.
Yeah, right. No doubt. And then is it bad timing, Maddie, for me to announce my new meme token? It's called Rug. Yes. It's going to be Rug. It's just memes of me and a bad toupee. And but guaranteed to only blow off in a windstorm.
You know what I would love to see? You know what I would love to see is the standard get raised a little bit. So what if you did do that meme coin, but you had the same distribution model as Communis? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? It's just, you're just going to change a picture. So I'm hoping the technical standard is raised from like a, you know, ERC20 does literally nothing token to at least like, you know, have the same distribution model as Comm. So
incentivizing good behavior.
Why not? You're on board, or you're distributing it to, you know, proportionally the best holders in crypto. I mean, it's a miracle, really. I think. Sorry, but you know, I don't understand why you wouldn't.
When we're talking about things like speculative stickiness and behavioral approaches to crypto, a lot of this, you know, everybody's looking for the innovation in crypto, but look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is, you know, it prides itself on not changing. And so I ask myself, what is this innovation everybody's looking for? And the real innovation, in my opinion, that everybody's looking for is they're looking for the stickiest thing. And what makes the thing sticky? The stickiness comes from the math. That's all this is. You have to get your stickiness from the math because, you know, we've heard this from Richard Hart. We're replacing men with math. And so maybe you don't like math very much. Maybe you are not the type that wants to dive into numbers and such. But if you're looking for innovation in crypto, the innovation comes from math. Look at Uniswap. You have the, you know, even distribution across the range from 0 to infinity with the prices, where you set up your range and you're making your yield according to the ticks on the chart. And if it falls into a range, that's where you want to make your yield. But that range works to give you yield because of the math. So Uniswap is one of the biggest innovations we have in crypto. It's all math. Hex is one of the greatest innovations we have in crypto. It's all math. So if you're looking for innovation in crypto, look for the math. And right now with Comm, we have a Hex Comm fusion that is all math.
Amen.
Got any more multiple choice questions for us, Maddie?
Toby is muted.
Oh.
I only had the one.
You know what's happening is I'm trying to eat like while we're talking because it's like I literally took a nap that was way too long and then I didn't eat and then I drank some coffee and I'm like, ah. But yeah, it's like the, you know, to Johnny's point, about the math. It's like, yeah, it's there for people that want to dig into it, but there's so many other layers to the community. It's like, I'm sorry if this comes off wrong or whatever, but it's like a lot of people don't do their own research. They just don't, right? It's like they get into something because someone else is telling them about it, and that's kind of good enough because they see their excitement or, they're
or they
passionate
can't, right?
Yeah, and like
If you
dumb
don't
money.
know how to read code.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I've perused a little code. It's like I'm over 50, but I'm trying to learn still. And but it's like I watched Dumb Money the other night. And it's like one of the things that kept those people from swiping up to sell GameStop was like, hey, if Roaring Kitty's not out yet, I'm not out yet. If he's holding, I'm holding, right? It's like, if you guys watch that movie, great movie, by the way, highly recommend it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, so it's like, obviously I'm always saying, please do your own research. I don't want any responsibility for how someone else chooses to spend their time or money. I'm just super stoked about it, and I've poured a lot of time and money into it. So I like to talk to other people that are similarly minded or people that want to learn more. So, but yeah, it's like I'm not saying, hey, just like take our word for it, do it, go hit the buy button, But it's like, but it's like if you're gonna buy a meme coin, right? If you're gonna screw around with Teddy Cat or Grizzly Bear or whatever. It's worth throwing something at something like Comm and Hex and this type of ecosystem so you can, like someone said earlier, get your beak wet, right? And then you get a flavor.
If Hex Lena isn't selling, I'm not selling.
Bingo, there you go, right? I have yet to take any
It's
profit.
our Roaring Kitty.
Yeah, I've yet to take any profit and that. And it's like, and Hex Lena's hanging in there. My stake length isn't as long, but I've got a shorter time horizon. I'm older. So, I can't, I've got 15-year stakes that are out from even this year that I started. But at some point, and I don't have any kids. So it's like, I want to figure, my staking ladder might be a little differently structured than other people. I'm jealous of people I see on Twitter that have like a 12-year average or 14-year average. I'm like, holy moly. But, but they're 9-year-olds. So congratulations, rich little bastards.
Thanks.
I saw the comment from Funding Jim. Math doesn't host YouTube channels. Math doesn't tweet or have conversations with buyers. Math may enforce computer rules, but men and women participate. Men and women make charts, not math. So, I think Funding Jim there is highlighting the importance of the social aspect of crypto as well. I always like to say that crypto is only as useful as it is adopted. And so if people aren't talking about it, then how else does it get adopted? So that is a great point. But the math creates the stickiness. The math defeats tragedy of the commons. These are things that we need as well. Tragedy of the commons is always going to be rampant when you have coins that do the same things as other coins, that do the same things as other coins. And now you have tragedy of the commons where everybody wants to jump in and out from one coin to the next based on how cheap or by how socially approved they are. But how long does that social approval last? Because the social approval can only last based on, really in crypto, based on the price going up. And how long does that price go up for? Well, what determines how long that price is going to go up for is the math. So that would be my argument, is that yes, socials are extremely important. The math is also extremely important.
Yeah, as a dev, I'm probably biased, but I think you need code first and math. And then, you have to foster a community, right?
I love devs. I appreciate you. It's like, I signed up for a Udemy course for is it Synchrony or Synchronous? What's the language? Synchro something? I can't remember. That's how far I've gotten into the course.
Solidity?
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Solidity, okay.
Solidity, something, synchronicity. I was listening to the police earlier. I'm showing my age. But yeah, it's like, it's tough, man. It's like, it's not that tough. I don't want to scare people away from it. It's like, there's basic stuff that you can pick up pretty quickly, but it's like the intricacy of it gets steep quick, it seems. And I really appreciate people that have invested the time and energy to really to learn it and do it well. Because like I've heard Maddie say it, I think, and plenty others, I'm sure, it's like, it's amazing any of this stuff works at all, right? It's like, there's so many little ways it could go sideways. And one of those is kind of like, what Jonni was referring to with the, with the meme coins and stuff. It's like, you're just jumping from one log to another, like as the whole pile of them is going downstream, and you don't know which one's going to hit a rock and you're going to go flying forward and face plant. You don't know which one's going to roll over or rot or break in the middle. And you better hope that you hop to the right log at the right time if you want to, get to the end. And then maybe at the end, there's a freaking waterfall and then all the logs go over. Then what do you do? Right. It's like, we could go on and on with that crazy analogy, but it's, but that's where my thing is. I'm not hateful toward a meme community or those types of things. I think that that's part of human nature. It's like, I know people like to say we need the degens. It's just, it's more for me an acceptance thing that that's part of human nature and there's going to be that element. My thing is that I'm hoping that we can punch through the noise. So it's like, hey, while you're doing that, if you get lucky and you go to the gas station and you get a scratch off and you win $10,000, maybe instead of blowing all of that on hookers and blow or a Lamborghini, you can't get a Lamborghini for 10 grand, but you know what I'm saying? Instead of blowing it on silly crap or like things that are unhealthy or bad for you, or maybe you're fun for a short time, maybe take a portion of that and put it in the best store of value ever. And then
my DeLorean.
Or Maddie's DeLorean. If you win 100 grand, Maddie's DeLorean, take the rest and get a Hex stake. Yes. Claim your Comm. Win, man. And then you've got the car for the future, and you've got your stakes for the future, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Toby.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you.
I try to weasel
for advertising for me. Thank you.
I'll do my best. And Hex Community, what's it called? HexCommunity.com.
That's my 1% referral link.
HexCommunity.com, dude. It's
you
like
you get 100% of your Comm, and I get a 1% bonus.
And you know what? Unlike the yet to be determined staker referral bonuses, this bonus you get. I promise. It's like, I've got a few. I shared my link out there, and then is this bad? I self-referred on some. Is that bad? Am I a bad guy for doing that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I am bad. Okay. Thank you.
It doesn't matter.
Adequately shamed for the evening by Codeak. But it's like, I think it's a great way to support people that are out there doing the work, and it's easy, right? It's like, you go and you click hexcommunity.com. It takes you right there. Maddie gets 1%. And plus, this is something too that I found myself having to explain back in the staker days, because I had this weird like latent guilt of like, oh, I'm going to get something out of my friends staking or whatever. So I would explain it to them, and I'd be like, hey, it's like, this isn't coming out of your end in any way. This is just
sort of
right. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we could go deep into the overall supply and all that of it, but generally speaking, it's like, if my understanding of it is like, it's not like they get 99% of their Communis and you get 1%, right?
They get 100%. Well, yeah,
exactly. So that's the thing that makes me feel good about it. And also it is a way to show support for people like Maddie in the community, or Crypto Coffee, I think's got a link of his own too. I've got one that's floating around my Twitter, but don't use mine, go use Maddie's. And it's a good way too for people to want to promote it, right? It's like, I mean, we had a referral system for Hex for the first year, so I think it's a genius design. I love it. It's like, of all the stuff that's come along, it's like, it's really the one that I think has the most potential. But I'm one of those, guys that is always hoping that, we see the best of humanity and not the worst. I'm like the, kind of annoying eternal optimist guy. But I'm hoping it's like things like this that like make people's behaviors better, and stuff like Maddie's time pays me. And, these are the kind of things that I gravitate toward, that helps thank you, Gary, for the word, the cohesion for me in the community is like, those kinds of things that I see. Cause it's like, dude, the meme groups and stuff, it's dog eat dog. Those people don't care if they take your money, dude. They're trying to take your money. It's like, that's what that stuff does. It's like, they're not looking for all of you to succeed together as much as they want to say we're arm in arm, linked up, hands across America style. it's like a trading group. It's like they want to beat you, right? And where I've never felt like that in Hex, and I love it. So thank you for allowing me to rattle on.
Stake it till you make it.
Right? Yeah. Stake it till you make it.
Yeah. What's the social value of referral links? I mean, that's huge. We've got the power to have a referral program that lasts forever. It lasts forever now. And
I love that.
can you think of any other cryptocurrencies that have referral programs? Because I'm not aware.
Yeah, it's a great. Obviously, I didn't invent it. It came with Hex, but yeah, I think it's just that it was, to make it worth it, it has to be. It can't be 20%, right? And you want it to run forever. Can't be 20%, because the higher the percent, the more it hurts to not self-refer. There's like this. That correlation there. So 1%, I think both parties are happy, right? The referee and the referrer. So yeah.
It's great. Oh, I mean,
Good thinking.
This, in my opinion, is an endgame situation. If we adopt this correctly, I believe we are reaching towards the endgame of crypto.
So Codeak, are you feeling better about doing a stream? I know that when we talked before, you were a little nervous about doing a live stream. Have we made you feel at home? I've heard some chuckles from behind your avatar. I'm hoping that you're feeling a little better. I think you've done it. I love that you've come to talk to us about it, and give us a better idea of and to confirm kind of our understanding of things. But how are you feeling?
Definitely feeling. Yeah, definitely feeling great. Yeah, it's just I am a coder, and that's like the dead opposite of live streaming. But yeah, no. It's
in
not
so many ways, I'm sure.
Not that bad. Yeah. Oh yeah. Not that
right
bad.
on. Cool. To me, it's like it's complicated till it's not, right? And it's like, so there was definitely a learning curve. It took me a while to kind of relearn it. Like recently, I've kind of dug back in. I had some stakes coming out, and was restaking, and was paying attention to it again. But it's kind of like TShares. Like TShares, it's like I got it now, right? So definitely encourage people to look into it. The Communis chat still pretty active. I haven't been over there in a while.
Well, it's grown in the past week or so. I believe it was. So right now it's at 2,423 members.
Nice.
A few weeks back, before I revealed this whole secret weapon, I believe that was around 2,100. I think we've gained about 300 in the chat room.
That's great.
I wanted to speak to that kind of complexity that you were touching on. That it's complicated until it's not. Let's take this back a little bit. So I'm calling this the Hex Comm fusion. Okay, and the reason I'm doing that is because I'm looking at these two coins together as one coin. I am not looking at them as two separate coins. And the reason is because if you can imagine going back in time when Hex first launched, day one of Hex, there would have been no stakes in existence, and there would have been no Comm in existence. And the Comm would only come into existence once those stakes started being made. But once those stakes do start being made, and then they claim their Comm, they don't have a market there for the Comm side. And so who would they be selling the Comm to? If there's nobody to sell to, then you just have your Comm and you're not selling it. And then what would happen is once money does come in to Comm at that point, and then you still have a stature of a user base who is not selling yet, because if you imagine, if you bought Hex on day one, are you really selling on day two? So you extend that same logic to the Comm side, and you say, if you just got your Comm, are you really selling it the next day? Well, probably not. And in that case, when you do put money into it, all you have at that point is, we haven't gotten into this yet, but I've been talking about the coupon rate, which right now is about 5%. We'll get into why this has no business being at 5%. But If you go back to day one of Hex, you start making your stakes. You're not selling your Comm. You're just claiming it. Any money that comes in at that point should have already had it at a 100% coupon rate. And what would that mean? That would mean that you have an automatic marketing system. And the reason is because you've now just put money out there to be claimed by anybody. And the way that they claim it is by taking Hex and staking it. And so the simplicity of this is that if you can imagine going back to day one in Hex, it's very likely you would not have been a Comm seller, and that anybody making the Hex stakes would not have been a Comm seller. And instead, what they would have been incentivized to do is be a Comm buyer, because they want to see the growth of the network. They want to see automatic marketing. They want to see new users, not just the users that are already aware. So it's really as simple as, this is an automatic marketing network when you are at the right rate. Now, it's still an automatic marketing network even below a 100% coupon rate. However, the higher the coupon rate is, the stronger the incentive.
Hey, we had a question in the chat from Wakanda, and they asked, I lost it. What happens to the coins if you don't, like, what happens if you don't claim, you don't mint? And my thinking was they just don't exist, because basically that's how the inflation happens, is by people minting them into existence. So is that accurate?
Yeah, they're not sitting waiting for you. They don't exist. But so for the end bonus, you have 37 days to claim, which is a tenth of a year. And then for the start bonus, the penalty is the distance between the distance between the share rate your Hex stake was made at versus the current share rate. So if you started your stake with 10,000 per T-share, like at the very beginning, and now it's doubled, the share rate's doubled, well, then you're getting 50% of your start bonus. Yeah, so.
Got it. And then another question here from Jay. For Codeak, is Jonni's game theory what you had in mind when you designed Comm, or did you anticipate something different?
So Jonni's taking it to a whole new level that I didn't, or wasn't able to conceptualize. He actually understands much more about, I guess, traditional finance than I do, right? Was there a second part? I forget. But yeah, no, I did not conceptualize it. I understood in enhancing good behaviors and the game theory behind the behavioral aspects of it. And that's really what I was coding towards.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if there might be like an Alex from Hedron type of deal. Like, well, I actually had 17 tokens in mind, and it's like, you only saw the first two. It's like, it was all part of my master brilliant mind plan, and it's like in a spider web in space, and then I'm picking them out and showing them to you guys when I come across it. But it's like, to me, and then maybe it's just because of my tiny little, sometimes I joke with my fiance and I tell her, I'm like, I'm sorry, can your little girl brain not handle it? But it's funny because I'm the one that's being dumb. So it's irony. I'm not really being mean to my fiance. But it's like, to me, it seems like it's complete. Like it's as complete as Hex is, right? But then all of a sudden people build things on top of Hex that give you other inroads, maybe,
right,
or ways to interact with it. But to me, it's like, I feel like of all the stuff that's come out, yes, it's connected to Hex, obviously, but it just feels complete to me. It's like, I think I love what Jonni's doing, because it's like everything's adoption. And this is what I told Crispy early on. I'm like, it's all adoption. It's like, yeah, this is a little complicated and there's a learning curve, but if people don't use it and understand it, then there's not going to be any, your coupon might be, 0.2%, right? Because the value of Communis would be so low. It's like, you're not going to get any additional Hex, even if you participated. So all of it's about awareness and getting people to utilize it and see the benefits it being like this marketing budget like Jonni came up with, right? But yeah, I mean, I'm not to just like totally give you a hand job the whole stream, but it's like I think it's great, man. It's like I'm really like from a psychological perspective, even it's like I used to play blackjack. It's like it was me against the house. I never felt like I was playing against the other guy, so like that's how I justified it in my weird brain. So it's like it's like this is the kind of project I like, because I feel like karmically clean about it, if that makes any sense. You know?
No, it's Richard set a good standard, right? I mean, no sacrifice, no, this didn't require any
thank God
externalities. Yeah.
I think we're all sacrificed out.
No, I don't even want to start about.
You're creating efficiency in the market is what you're doing, because if we all, we go back to the beginning days of Hex, we say we all love Hex. You got this huge wave of initial demand. You have the people who were watching Richard Hart streams before Hex launched. You have all that. You have this huge wave of initial adoption. Everybody knows what they need to do. We need to be staking, stake longer pays better.
Yeah.
But now you need that second wave of adoption. And where does that second wave come from? We know how cryptos work. The wave of adoption comes from number go up. So now we have a situation where you can do the marketing virtually automatically. You can get the new users. You can get the increased number of users in the network. And you can do that because you are putting up an offering. Now, the question becomes, who wants to put up that offering? Because it sounds great to do the marketing virtually automatically, but what doesn't sound great is for me personally to do the automatic marketing because I personally put up the money. There's tragedy of the commons there. And so how do you get everybody to help fund that? Well, the way to do that is to say that you have a balanced equation where the amount of value being burnt, it actually ends up being a neutrality in the value that you maintain. And so, for example, we're at a 5% coupon rate right now. 20 times the amount of Hex has to be staked in order to claim the Comm that you would get on the Comm side. Because of that, you are setting up a situation where you can do the math and figure out where's the neutral zone. And the neutral zone would be, I took a loss on the Comm side, but the increased value on the Hex side neutralized that loss. And so it becomes worth it, because now, even though you as the liquid holder have seen the value go up, however, your actual liquid net worth stayed the same, even though the price went up. Well, that's part of the marketing. The marketing is that we're seeing reduced supply and we're seeing number go up. See, the goal is to capture and retain. And to capture and retain, you need these incentives and you need to see positive outcomes. There's an outcome right now in Hex that nobody is aware of if they're not a Hex user currently or a Hex staker. What's going on right now in Hex is you see that it's been trending down in price. Okay. However, if you're a staker who's staked long enough, you are actually outpacing in your rewards. You're actually outpacing this downtrend. And by the time your stake comes to an end, you claim it, you're happy, you capture your rewards, and you realize, hey, I made a profit. However, what did that profit show up as on the price chart? It showed up as the price chart that continues to trend down. And so how is anybody else outside of Hex going to know that people are actually profitable here? They have no way of knowing that, except by word of mouth. But how powerful is the word of mouth? Because we know that the, disposition of many people is that if they're outside of Hex, they see a bunch of people yelling and cheering about how great Hex is, but then they look at the price chart and they don't believe you. So,
or they get diluted into other things on PulseChain,
absolutely,
completely. I mean, we're at like, go ahead.
And so you can reconfigure, basically, you can reconfigure the chart so that it actually shows the positive that it is. And you can do so in a way where it's neutral, in the sense that the current holders retain the same value that they had, even though the price went up. And then you're left with, well, what was the value add? The value add was marketability, new users.
Yeah. It gives stakers the tool it needs to, defend itself or propagate itself in a scalable way. That's how I see it. And
I got a good one. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and Johnny's math highlights like exactly the risks involved in the path to victory. So that's awesome.
Do you guys see any difference in the game theory between Comm on PulseChain and Comm on Ethereum?
You want me to go first?
Founders
so,
first.
Yeah, my opinion is that you're going to have the same sort of. I think of an attention market cap where a certain percent of people are still looking at like EHEX, right? And that's kind of your cap. But and I think Crispy can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that shares on Ethereum, the total shares on Ethereum are less than PulseChain just because of people not taking it seriously anymore. I'd have to go look at the data again.
Yeah, in terms of TShares, that's true.
Yeah, so maybe it gets harder to get Comm, but then you still have it as like a ratio to like the total attention that the Ethereum side has anyway. So you might equal out. You never know. So I don't know. I think it makes sense to how do I say this? I can't say anything. I can't be specific.
Yeah, so
I don't want to guide people.
Show your own thing. Come on, Codeak.
No, I can't.
No, I can hear the reluctance, bro. I get it. I understand.
Yeah. People need
and
to,
I'm like, I always try to be silly about it, but it's like that's why I always kind of like cap it all my hyperbole with do your own research, because ultimately it's like people need to do their own research. And
true. In my case,
yep.
Sorry. Now, in my case, since I made the coin, I'm like especially careful not to.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely. I understand that.
Good.
I like teasing you, but wasn't
Toby didn't get the memo before the stream.
No, I was napping, obviously.
Yeah.
But hey, what was the other question, Maddie?
But Jonni was going to answer the same question as well.
Okay, cool. And then we got a question in the chat. Don't let me forget that Wakanda had. So take a look at that, Maddie.
So the question is what's the difference between PCOM and ECOM, and in terms of how it works with EHEX, PHEX? There's no difference. There's a coupon rate with ECOM just as there is a coupon rate with PCOM. The difference, in my opinion, comes down to when we're looking at what the functionality of this is, which, in my opinion, the functionality of this is that it is a marketing budget for Hex. So when you're looking at it in terms of a marketing budget, I ask myself, and I would encourage you to ask yourself too, do you want to be splitting your marketing budget up? Now, your answer to that may be yes, if you want to be somebody who supports Ethereum Hex instead of PHEX. And then if you want to support PHEX over EHEX, you would probably support PCOM to support the PCOM marketing budget. So they are the same. There is no difference, but I think it's just going to answer the question. It's going to help resolve the whole debate because we get to see the snowball of liquidity roll in, and the amount of liquidity on the P side versus the E side is going to become clear very quickly, or at least I believe it should. And once it becomes clear, you are now defining which one of your tokens is more marketable, because the Comm with the higher liquidity is the hex that has the more powerful marketability. And so as that liquidity starts rolling in and the divergence clearly shows which one is getting the most support, it's going to become very obvious which one should continue getting the most support, because why take something that's adding power and reduce that power by putting it on the other side that didn't have that power?
I can answer that. It might have been rhetorical in nature, but what I've noticed is that there are quote unquote whales in EHEX that don't exist on PHEX. For example, BankX. And so if the whales wanted to have a showdown with each other and, you know, support one Comm versus the other, I think that that would be a really good way for them to show, especially if you're somebody who has so much HEX you can't even sell it all. Why wouldn't you be supporting something like Comm? Why wouldn't you be incentivizing the right behaviors yourself? And I think once the whales figure that out, the ones who are solely invested in e-com, which is not the majority of whales, but maybe one or two, in fact, and over time, in 10 years, it might look a lot different. It'll be really curious to see how they go about supporting or avoiding the system that, you know, is really good for their chain, good for their product.
And Maddie, that's a great point, because so this is an important point to highlight, and that is that it is very easy to support this system because you already have HEX, and it doesn't necessarily require new money coming in. You have HEX, and if you hold your HEX liquid and it just sits in your wallet, well, that's not doing anything. It's dormant and it is unproductive. Well, you can take that HEX and make it productive by putting it into the marketing side of the functionality between this HEX Comm fusion. And so, yeah, to your point, Maddie, about, you know, that you have whales on the EHEX side. Yeah, they could be using their HEX, making it productive and supporting the EHEX side. So I think what's really going to determine the difference is where does the new dollars come in to support? Because the HEX part is easy. You already have it, and you can support the system with it without taking on any, well, if you didn't have any added value to put in, you already have the HEX. So what's superior when you're looking at where the strength comes from with this? It's going to come from where does the new value come from? Because the HEX value is one thing, but when you're adding value outside of HEX and bringing that in, that is far superior. And so whatever power is on the Ethereum side to take HEX and use that to support eComm and eHEX, that equivalent power exists on the PulseChain side with PHEX and PComm. And then the only divergence you can really look for is going to come from the outside value, and where does the outside value want to go? So I still think it's the same. You're looking for the divergence in the liquidity, which one is getting more, which one's trending higher. And I think this is a great case where you'd want to follow the trend, because in this case, the more value that comes in, the more powerful it's becoming. And so why not continue to increase the power?
Hey, Jonni, to add something to what you were saying earlier, I mean, not to be contentious, however, as far as the EHEX PHEX thing, it's like, to me, it's like Vanguard funds versus Fidelity funds, right? It's like lot of them are damn near identical. They hold the same number of the same stocks. Maybe their allocations are a little different, but it's like, you know, they hold the same tickers in a Fidelity fund as they might in a Vanguard fund. So I think it's that kind of deal, but also that kind of goes back to what you're saying, which is which side's marketed, right? So if Vanguard's doing a better job marketing their funds or making it more attractive to potential investors than Fidelity is, then, you know, that one might have a little more sway. But I don't think it's ever going to be a situation where it's like one of them dies. I just don't. Other than like thermal nuclear explosion wiping us all out. There's like bigger things maybe that would cause that. But and the reason I say that is because of the amount of money that's there and the time lock that it's there. Right? It's like people are going to defend that bag. Just intuitively, right? It's like it doesn't make any sense if you've got new capital, and it's whether you're buying the price back up or whether you have your own marketing methods or whether that's where you choose to onboard. People are going to defend both sides. So I think both hexes will succeed long term, and I think it's going to be kind of the seesaw that we've seen. You know, one's maybe doing a little better than another on a given day, and that's, you know, kind of my take on that. But the question I wanted to bring some attention to, and this is where, you know, everybody brace yourselves for a bunch of nerds to really go deep, hopefully not too deep, is the question from Wakanda about claiming other people's stakes. And I think what they're kind of hinting at, or what it made me think of, was good accounting. And I forgot about that element of Comm and how that can be. And, you know, maybe Codeak, you could go into that if you don't mind, about what your thoughts of good accounting are and how it impacts the overall system, and then how it impacts a Comm user that wants to utilize that functionality of Communis.
Yeah. So most hex stakes that are stale. So good accounting is for forgotten stakes. Basically, they're just sitting there bleeding, never, you know, being claimed or ended. And when you run the good accounting function on that, it updates, I guess, various metrics in the Hex system, like your payouts for everyone else who has a stake. Anyway, so where Comm comes into play is, depending on the value of Comm, of course, that stake that's sitting there, technically it's getting more rare over time with the increase of the share rate versus, you know, the factored in with the price of Hex. So potentially you could sensibly make free Comm by having the payout of running this good accounting bonus on that stake and taking it out of the share pool, as long as the gas was cheap enough. So with PulseChain, there, you know, I don't know exactly, you know, what stale stakes are out there to run the good accounting on, but you know, it's just another potential way to clean up the system, right?
So when they do that, and you'll have to remind me here, because it's like that was something I remember looking at early on, but I don't think I ever participated in it. And I think Crispy and I might have talked about it a little bit. And I know Crispy can go real deep on this and does a great job, better than anyone I've seen on, you know, how good accounting affects the system. So he might want to weigh in here. But but my understanding was, like, when you do that in effect, you're as the user choosing to run good accounting and pay the gas to do that, you're getting the Communis that stake would have gotten.
You're getting 1% of
1%
its
of it.
max payout if it had been ran, or if it had its end bonus claim.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
It's
like, because I'm always trying to be overly specific in some of the stuff. It's like, I know I'm silly and whatever, but it's like I always try to, like, maybe ask what might feels like a dumb question, because I know there's people that aren't going to go out here and research it. And then they're going to assume like, oh, hey, well, if I hit the good accounting and I pay the gas, it's like, I'm going to get all their Communis. No, we need specifics because it's like math only works if you're using accurate numbers, right? So so forgive me if the questions seem a little like whatever, but there's a purpose.
So bigger stale stakes are obviously worth more, and theoretically are worth more over time. So the other thing I wanted to say is why 1%. The way I structured it is how important it was relative to the other bonuses. So the end bonus is 100%. That's the most important thing, right? Start bonus is 10% for year stakes, and then good accounting is 1%. So I just did it by factors of 10. So just a tidbit.
Cool.
There's so many great parts to this system. The whole reward for good accounting is not something that I focus on for my purposes, but it is a great thing because, even though Hex stakes, they dwindle down to 0 if they went late for 2 years. So after 2 years, the stake penalty overwhelms the rewards and sends the entire value to 0 after 2 years. If you get an accumulation of those in the system where you just have a bunch of users who forgot about it and don't care anymore, they're still sitting there in the system with their shares. And so even though they're not capturing the rewards from those shares, they're clogging up the rewards for others. And if you get too many of those accumulated into the system, you will have forever reduced yield potential for new users. And so it is important that the good accounting function does get ran on these. But that's another tragedy of the common situation, another sense of tragedy of the commons, where who wants to be paying the gas fees to run these?
Don't you worry. It's happening.
And
I was going to say, Crispy's been so quiet. He's up there clacking away with his like spreadsheet, tells him which one's profitable. It's like good accounting, good accounting, good accounting.
Who has access to the data, right?
So there's some
ChrispyMan.
There have been some people. There's a group of people. I can't tell you who they are. I don't know who all of them are, but they actually do this. So
I bet.
So they've been mining the hell out of that. But I like the other aspect of it because there are some that doesn't make sense to do. Because it's just so small that the dollar value is so little and the effect is so little in the system. But I see all that as fruit on the tree. That's fruit ripening on the tree. And it kind of goes along, however it happened, right? We've got thousands and thousands of these stakes, little stakes that are out there. I believe that crypto goes up into the right. I believe that PulseChain is going to exist as well as Ethereum. I believe that Hex will be here. And okay, so in that scenario, someday Hex is $100, $200 a Hex, right? Well, it'll make a lot more sense to start harvesting the hell out of those in the future, right? Because people will be able to just pick them off the tree and go with it. So it's just kind of interesting how it all came together, that part of the scenario. But yeah, you're right, Jonni. It needed to be cleaned up. At one time, it was pretty bad, but then people figured it out. And they started using Codeak software to do the good accounting.
I think the average. Go ahead.
The way all this is coming together, we always knew that when Hex was launched, we looked at it as a completed product. But with this, I really commend Codeak for what he's built here, because in my opinion, it took Hex further to the further point of completion. If we wanted to call it complete before, I think this is the actual completion of Hex. You now have your marketing functionality alongside your yield functionality from the Hex side. And you now have your cleanup tools, system cleanup tools. You also have your referral program, which, Richard Hart begged and begged for somebody to reintroduce the referral program, if you remember. Mm-hmm. So we now have a fully complete Hex with the Hex Comm fusion.
Just saw a comment from Hex. Just saw a comment from Hexbug. It's like, hey, Jonni, Codeak, love the depth of all this, but likely speaking for many that this is all rather overwhelming and confusing. Have you tried using AI tools? Yeah. Have you tried using AI tools to help and try to simplify the message?
Yeah, so I want to make something really clear on that. Thanks for bringing that up. That's actually what I was just going to bring up, was that comment with that question. So I am not concerned with the traction that we're going to gain over time with this approach. This thing ages like fine wine because of the value that comes from the T-share rate and how that affects Comm. So the way that I've approached this so far is that it's iterative. I have not put out all the material and all the resources yet. There's not even websites really to reference at this time. This is all still very early, and I still have plenty of tutorial videos that I plan on making and putting out, and I really haven't gotten any of the tutorial videos out yet at all. All I've put out on my YouTube channel, if you want to search Jonni Sachs on YouTube, you'll be able to find the video where I put out a full overview on what I called the secret weapon to break crypto. So that was the name of the video, if you want to search that. You can also go to my Twitter page, and you can go under the highlights tab of my page, and you'll be able to see the points that I'm highlighting in regards to this. But this is all just the very beginning. I put out a full and comprehensive overview in a 90-minute video. And so if you do want to watch that video, I do encourage it, and you'll get a lot out of it. However, that was just the first step. We need tutorial videos. So I plan on doing little bite-sized 5 to 10-minute videos to really get into what's involved and what's going on under the hood here. So tutorial videos will come. We also need to put out resources, because right now, you as the user do not have any way of knowing what the coupon rate currently is. The only thing you know is what I put out on the highlights tab of my Twitter page, and you can reference the picture that has the horizontal lines on the chart that represent all of the coupon rates. But that, the real resources have not even been put out there yet. Also, the spreadsheet that you can use to calculate where we are in the coupon rate and what the requirements are, that has not been put out yet. So there's a lot to come. And so, yeah, for those who have the patience and attention span to get through that full comprehensive overview video, you're going to get a lot out of it. But I did not expect for the majority of people to actually go and dive deep into that. So there's more to come. It is going to require patience. I am one man.
Get to work, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Sachs?
Right now, we're all just sitting around here talking. We haven't even opened up any stats, any spreadsheets, any coupon rate talk or anything. We're just sitting around here talking about the new power that we have to have an automatic marketing system with Hex. So there's more to come. And yeah, I would ask for patience on that.
Hey, Crispy, I was going to ask you something. No, I can't remember. What was it? It was about the good accounting thing. And, oh, yeah, I was going to say, I guess it depends on where you are in your Hex staking ladder journey, whether you see good accounting as good or bad. And here's what I mean by that. Like, for me, my initial thing was my quick math in my brain was, I'm not done staking or buying. So I don't want the T-share rate to ratchet up any faster than it already is. So therefore, I wouldn't want people to good account. But I think you and I might have touched on this before. Like, there's also a benefit in that situation, because even though the T-share rate's going higher before you're able to make a stake, your existing stakes are benefiting from that T-share rate being higher. Is that convoluted enough of a question, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think there's pros and cons to good accounting stakes, and we could probably argue all day long about it, because some people say never good account them because it minimizes how much how much additional inflation there is, and it keeps Hex out of the hands of somebody who might dump them. But if those people are going to dump them anyways, they can come back and do their own, right? So yeah, that aspect of it, I don't know. But in terms of pushing the share rate against yourself, don't worry about it, because the share rate will go up, but it's very difficult and it's not fast. So even if you were doing good accounting and for some reason it was pushing the share rate up, it doesn't go up fast enough that it's something that's really going to affect what you're going to get.
The share rate is virtually predetermined for the most part.
Yeah, that's probably most a good way to say it. It does change, and of course it's malleable. But like Jonni said, we've already got 4 years of operational history, and we have stakes that have already been set all the way out for another 15 years. And so by and large, the share rates, the picture, the image of what share rates are going to look like in the future already exists. They'll just change a little bit. Now, I guess there's a caveat there, Jonni, that we could say if we had some sort of like insane emergency end stake event and capitulation, then perhaps you'll see big changes. Or on the other end, if we suddenly saw like Uber adoption, like over the top adoption, where suddenly OA and like Godwell level staking takes place, then perhaps you will see them move to, but it just takes so much time. We could actually go into like hours of detail of that, but you just have to take my word for it. We watch it every single day. It moves like it moves the way paint dries. It's just slow. It's going to get dry. You just don't know when.
Yeah, it's not really worth the headache to try to game that, really.
Yeah, at that level, you get a big kick out of that. And I know why you ask it, Toby, because people say a lot of stuff all the time about how Toby's coming in with $1 billion. He's going to stake it, and the share rate's going through the sky. Yeah, okay, I won't tell anybody.
I'm already going for the Howard Hughes. I'm like, let my fingernails grow. My beard's coming in.
Yeah, nobody needs to know your Godwell. Forget that, everybody.
Ignore the hat.
Just joking. Yeah. Does that answer your question, Toby?
Yeah. I thought, I mean, that was pretty much what I had recalled from our conversations, but I think that I always try to anticipate what the audience is thinking. So it's like, when we throw, and like Hexbug was a great example of that. It's like, because it does get confusing, and like you guys are really well versed on this, but it's hard to follow when it's succinct. So that's I really liked his thought about the AI thing, trying to kind of help with some of this stuff, because it is tricky. And then plus it adds skepticism to people. It's like, if you don't have, like, that's also, here we go, talking jack off fest again. Sorry, Codeak. It's like what I think is so great about Codeak. It's complete. It's not like there's pieces he's left out, like that you don't know yet, right? Like, and then you're going to be like, oh man, it's like I did all this stuff, and it's like now there's this curveball thrown in. It's like making me feel like I, got duped or whatever. So that's, much like Hex, it's complete, and I enjoy that about it. So I think it's important to, if there's even with marketing strategies, Jonni, it's like if there's stuff out there, it's like, I was kind of joking, like, get to work. But I think it's important to like get it out there, because there's going to be people like, oh man, the only reason you're doing this is because it's pumping your own bags, or, or you got the LP, or you got a bag, or you got a position, or whatever. And you're just trying, it's like, yes and no. Hello. It's like, guess what? If anybody on the stream has, that's watching the stream has a Hex stake, you've got Comm tokens, and you get them for free, right? So it's like, this is only something that could benefit everyone, like if you take time to learn it. But with that being said, I think it's also important to like make sure that we have as much of the game theory and tokenomics discussions and stuff as we can, so people can be fully informed and not later on feel like, wait a minute, what just happened?
So I just ran good accounting on a family member's stake I had forgotten about, and so instead of going to backuphex.com, well, I loaded that and noted that it seems to be working on PulseChain. But then I also went to my referral link, hexcommunity.com, which brought me to the Comm dashboard, and I entered in the public address of the account I was looking at, and then I also loaded the stake ID, which I got the stake ID from my own front end for Hex staking, go.tshare.app/?account equals and then the account address, and it shows me on the dashboard there for go.tshare.app what the stake ID is. I'm sure there are other places I could have gotten it, but I needed both of those inputs in order to do the good accounting bonus through Comm. And correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like what happened was by claiming the Comm associated with that good accounting stake, it actually ran good accounting for me in the background. Is that correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. It checks to see that it needs it, and then it runs it, and then verifies it, sends you the Comm. Yeah.
So
Awesome.
does that teach me that it seems like there would be no other way I would ever run good accounting other through the Comm dashboard, because even if I'm on Ethereum and it's going to cost me $50 or $100 to good account this, if I have a reason to good account it, why wouldn't I want the bonus of $1 of Comm tokens or whatever it is? Because if I run it through backuphex.com, then I don't get that small amount of Comm.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's good to know. It's good to know.
Hey, Maddie, could you go back over how you found the stake ID? I was trying to follow along while you were doing it. It's like, oh, wait, let me pull up Comm. And then I didn't pay attention.
Sure. Let me just share my screen here. Maybe that'll be easier.
Because I think if people want to do it, this will be a useful little tidbit. Maybe bookmark this for your tutorials later.
Yeah.
You get it.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see.
So if I go to this address here, go.tshare.app/account equals, and then I plug in the address, it'll show me any address, and it'll show me it'll show me each of the summary on all the mining that's occurring, and then it'll show me for this particular stake that's ended. And then if I zoom in here, this is the stake ID here in gray.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you went back over it, because I would have been looking for the rest of my life to try to find that little guy in the corner. Yeah, because that's like, is that the same number is there a number that's displayed on go.hex.com? Like, do you get a stake ID number there? Or where do those originate?
It's
the contract,
it comes from the contract.
But I mean, like, as far as like where someone can see them, I mean, obviously it's part of the contract. It's kind of like, okay, I'm stake number, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, is it in your list on go.hex.com? Does it typically show it there too?
I don't remember. I don't think so. There.
I can't remember.
I don't remember looking at good.
It shows up on Staker app too. If you plug in the address, it'll tell you the stake ID.
Okay.
You can also use backuphex.com.
Gotcha.
Or even hexfire.io. They drop the address and you see the staker IDs.
And that was Maddie. What was yours again? Go.tshare.app.
Yep. And then you have to throw in, if you're not in the account already, then you have to throw in the extra / account equals and then 0x blah blah blah.
Got it.
So
okay, cool.
I had to make it difficult, but yeah, that's how I found it. Now, in terms of being able to see that something has been good accounted, I don't know if go.tshare.app is actually showing correctly when something goes into good accounting, that it's not still bleeding out. And just off of my memory, it was like some of the websites that you can track other people's wallets with their stakes, some of them would show it correctly and some of them wouldn't. So that's something to keep in mind is, but I double checked, I guess, on backuphex.com, plugged in the address and under filter for expiring stakes, and then it still shows a good accounting button, but when I press it, it says, yeah, that's already been run. So there's a good accounting is such like a obscure thing that not all the front ends and not all the websites have really been able to track it well.
Not streamlined, no.
Right on.
So that's good to know for everybody who wants to be an expert in Hex, like the people who watch this show.
Woo-hoo. Well, I don't know. I always get bullish about all this conversation because, of course, I'm pretty geeky in this whole mining thing. I like it.
Yeah.
And I also see that we have this huge opportunity right now because basically how I hear everybody talking and see what goes on in all the chats or whatnot. Almost nobody's looking at long-term staking except for maybe this population of people. And I get pretty bullish over that because, all right, I'll set the stage this way. Again, I believe in crypto, believe in PulseChain. Okay, I believe that that Hex has viability and it's going to go forward. Hex almost, I guess I could argue with this, doesn't need new miners for it to exist and to flourish. What it needs is, now I like the idea of new miners and I want new miners, but I don't think it's 100% locked that you have to have new miners for it to survive. And so that means anybody who doesn't come over, they just leave all the yield for me.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, Crispy's absolutely correct. Hex actually does not need any new stakers, miners, if you're getting the right amount of adoption. Because it's clear that you are not getting the right amount of adoption, then you want the behavior thing of, yes, that supply continues to be locked. It continues to be locked longer. The global average stake length is rising. So you do want to see that. But Crispy is absolutely right. If everybody figured out tomorrow, the whole world figured out tomorrow that Hex is the best cryptocurrency, then they could just get a hold of some, keep it liquid, and they're going to see it do everything that they ever dreamed of because it's getting the adoption. If you go back to what Richard Hart used to quote all the time, when he would get the question of the sustainability of the yield, oh, you're paying everyone an average 38%. How could that be sustainable? And what was his response to that? His response was always, have you looked at the gains that when the yield is not a part of it, look at just the gains themselves. When that price chart went up to the top, the 50-cent top, yeah, that was more yield than what the actual yield from mining was paying you. So I think that's what ChrispyMan is pointing to.
Yeah, and of course, it's not ever going to be black and white like this, where we have no new miners. But I think what it opens up is this opportunity because that adoption is going to come, Jonni, right? At some point. I mean, who doesn't want to make reward, an APY, right? So the adoption's going to come at some point, or a bump in adoption, and in this lag period, there just aren't people taking it. So why, it's a huge opportunity for those who do. Yeah. Well, come back in 15 years and we'll see. Right. If you see the other part about this whole argument, though, too, is because I came off of some other conversations earlier today. A lot of people, they're playing. I look at this one. This is, for me, this is right now a 19 inning game, if you want to call it that way. 19 periods, whatever you want to call it. 19 quarters. I'm already in 4. Right.
Right.
I got 15 more to go. And what I'm seeing is a whole lot of people strategizing about what they're going to do this quarter, next quarter, this inning, next inning, not what's going to happen, top of the 7th, top of the 10th, that type of stuff.
And that's clear in the data, by the way. It is clear that the users are not respecting the longer pays better. That longer pays better bonus, it does its job, and like I said earlier, the yields are actually outpacing the reduction in the price if you were staked long enough. So, it just needs to be basically configured so that can be seen from the outside, so that the outsider can come and look at something and see the profitability that users are making. And it's very difficult. I think the reason it doesn't exist yet, like we don't have a chart that shows how well stakers are doing. And I think the reason that doesn't exist is because it's very complicated to make such a thing, because of you can only really make such a chart for on the individual level. On the collective level, that seems almost impossible to me. I'm not sure.
What are you looking for? What are you thinking about when you say that?
Yeah, so like it would be like a chart that shows what is that. So it's easier to say this on the individual level. So me myself, I plug in my wallet address into something that produces a chart that comes up and shows me my profitability over time based on how I staked. Now that seems possible, and we don't have that yet, but it seems possible. But then you scale that out to the collective whole, and it just becomes very convoluted and difficult. And I can't imagine any way to build such a chart. So yeah, because of that, you don't have that part of the marketing aspect where you can say, hey, here's how great the stakers are doing. Because it's one thing to quote the yield, but what's the argument you always get back in return? Well, yeah, but they're making all that yield, but they don't have the liquidity to sell into. And so unless you can actually bring up the tangible chart to show the actual profitability, you're missing that piece of the marketing.
Yep. We should talk some more about that, because I do have, we have worked up some data showing how, what position stakers are in today in terms of, are they net positive, net negative? And then I have not finished this, but I've been working on, the percentage of wallets in profit that we use for Bitcoin. So I've been working on something similar for Hex, where we know when the Hex came into wallets, we know when it left wallets, we know what the value was. To kind of determine how many of them are still in profit. Actually, I was thinking the staker side's a little bit easier to do than the liquid, but we can talk later about something like that, because I think that is very valuable, at least at a very high level, because it kind of indicates that how well the system's doing. Like some, of course, little known secrets, right? But if you had just been looking at EHEX, and one of the things I do weekly is, or try to do weekly, is a DCA stream. If you had been DCing into Hex from the beginning, you're still up, right? EHEX from the beginning, you're still up a pretty good margin. And yeah, sure, you're not at all-time highs, but you're still up. And if you're staking, you're really up, right? And that's before I tell you, oh, by the way, multiply that by 3 because you got copies on PulseChain. And every time I bring it up and talk to people about it, they give me all this crap about how, yeah, but you missed the top, you couldn't sell the top or whatever. Man, I'm here for what we started for, which is this passive income through holding Hex long time, and getting the yield. And I know my miners out here that are listening, they look at their stuff and they're like scratching their head too. They gotta be, because it's like, okay, yeah, I don't like that the price went down to freaking 2 cents combined. No, I don't like that, but it's pretty damn high, And as Toby says, it depends when people entered into the system. But anyways, I think that your idea is a good idea. Let's see if we can do something with that.
Right. And when you hear about the complaints about, well, staking trapped you because you could have sold that top, it's very clear and evident that very, very, very few people actually captured that high value of 50 cents.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody's so full of shit. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say that.
So
I mean, listen, I said the same thing. I even said it to Maddie. I'm shaking my head. I didn't get the memo that I was supposed to sell. But here's the thing. Let's go back a step. 2021, post big payday, I bought 1 million Hex. Let's just say, right? I did do that, but I bought 1 million Hex, right? You know what? Yeah, sure, I missed the 50-cent top, but now in 2025, 4 years later, when we get back to a new all-time high, allegedly, presumably, I now have 2 million Hex. And you know what? The price of Hex, I don't care what people say about being 50 cents. It's probably going to be multi-dollars, right? But that's a guess. That's a guess, guys. It's certainly possible that it could be, but it's at least going up to the all-time high, I believe, even if we're talking about combined. So anyways, even if it didn't go any higher than that, I got twice as much Hex as I did 2 years ago, right? And so the question in my head is this: am I man enough to hold, man? Because here's the thing: this is what I would have had to do. I would have had to have that million Hex. I would have had to time the top pretty good. Maybe I would have done that. I mean, there's enough information, and timed it, gotten that fiat value, or kept it in stables. But here's the key point: I would have had to hold it for a year and a half, and not dumped it down the drain after something else. That's hard, man. I don't know too many people can do that, be able to take like a huge amount of money, put it out there and just watch it for a year and a half, waiting for the paint.
You could
to
use
dry.
Time Pays Me.
You could use Time Pays Me. Yeah. But anyway, sorry, a little ranty, but I get excited about this because I like this whole topic. So
Totally.
It is after Halloween, so we might be able to find like crystal balls for cheap somewhere, like on a discount rack, and then we can peer into it like Nagabo and come up with some really bad predictions of what's going to happen next. But yeah, dude, if only, right? If only we could have. I mean, there's indications, like you said, of like where tops and bottoms may or may not be. But man, if you can nail it, that's great, and that's the carrot that keeps people chasing. Trying to hit tops and bottoms, and sadly gets a lot of people wrecked. But it's like I totally get it. I mean, I understand why that's enticing to people.
yeah.
But the thing about staking, what's so great is like, I mean, it's funny because I know we talk about this stuff all the time. We've been pretty deeply immersed in it since before the beginning, and it's. I was looking at it, I'm like, wait a minute. It's like we only have to do this many X's until I'm at my personal all-time high. But that's not the all-time high. How's that work? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it like took me a second, like, oh yeah. It's like, cause I've been DCAing ever since the top, all the way to now. And I've been earning yield this whole time. So it's all like, and this is what I've said every chance I get, is that a staking ladder is effectively a way to DCA for free. Cause you're literally getting more Hex, which is effectively lowering your cost basis, right? The whole premise behind DCA is that you're buying something lower than you initially bought it, right? Or you're buying it as it goes up. You're not just ending up buying a top and selling a bottom. You're dollar cost averaging. So you're minimizing that risk of trying to thump your whole, sack in at once, right? Your whole bag in at once. And then by doing that, and by staking rather, and because you're getting more tokens without injecting more capital, you're lowering your cost basis. So it's a free DCA, right? It's like people don't even know it. You got a staking ladder. Guess what? You've been DCAing all the way down, bro, because you got more Hex than you did. And if you look at it, and what kind of prompted this was Jonny's comment about having a chart that would show you the benefits of being staked versus unstaked. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, I bet Crispy has that somewhere. It's like it's hidden on the drive somewhere. It's like he's worked it out at some point or got something close. But and I think Gerardo and I talked a long time ago when he was kind of starting about a chart that would show you like, here's the price performance chart, but here's the price with staking, right? And I think that that's out there. But as far as getting like one that's actually accurate with like everybody, I see what you're saying, Jonni. That's a tall order. But to have a tool like that, and one last point, the thing for me and what really opened my eyes up to, because I didn't do my longest stake in the first few months. It took me a while until I understood TShares, to why it made sense to throw out beyond 10 years. Because to me, 10 years was it. It's like, oh, why would I do any more than 10 years? It's like, that's the max, bigger pays better bonus, longer pays better. That's it. That's the max TShares I'm going to get for that amount of Hex. So why go longer? And then when I saw it quantified in Bree and Juan's spreadsheet, that's when I'm like, holy smokes, that TShare retention thing, which I know Maddie's talked about a lot. And that's, I think a core premise of his personal plan. It's like, it's a survival of the fittest or survival of the youngest or whatever you want to call it. It's like, because eventually, those other guys are going to fall out of the system, right?
Yeah, well, there's absolutely no way to maintain your TShares without putting more value in. You have to be a net contributor. I mean, in my opinion, anyways. Particularly if you already set up a mature ladder, you're just hurting all the time. It's a race. It's a race. Yeah, because you just got to keep putting more value in and going out longer over and over and over again, and that means that the new guys all have opportunity.
Well, and to circle back, it's like that's yet another reason, why something like Comm is so valuable, because it's incentivizing that behavior. And I mean, and when I say incentivizing that behavior, like it's encouraging it and pretty much paying you to do the right thing, right? I mean, it's like, so, this whole the Comm thing was exciting at first. It kind of fell off my radar, to be honest. And, with Jonni kind of bringing some more light to it, it's like this is really the most excited I've been in a while about the potential of Hex, because I think when all this starts to click and it's like, and we get, more people involved, a percentage of them are going to be in the nerd club, right? They're going to be with us, and they're going to do the deep dive, and they're going to do things the right way. There's going to be those guys that are in and out, and they're just trying to grab the next meme coin, and to them, Hex and Comm and things like that are meme coins. They're just buying it, looking to see it make money, get out. They don't understand the long-term premise. But there's going to be that percentage. I don't know what that percentage is, but if the number's bigger, even if the percentage is small, that's a lot of people doing the right thing, and a lot of people marketing it, and a lot of people using it the right way, to where it's like, I think it's going to change the world. I mean, I know that makes me maybe sound like a little bit of a crazy person, but I think was it Gerardo that put the tweet out today that showed Richard's roadmap, like from 2 years ago, or like when the Pulse sacrifice was happening, and then like how many of the things have been accomplished already? Do you guys?
Richard doesn't have a roadmap for Pulse because it's no no.
Well, it was like a wish list, I guess would say.
Wish list, yes.
Wish list would
I
be
recall now.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like I mean, PulseChain being decentralized, I don't know if that was on the list, but that seems to keep coming along more and more. The fact that you have a downloadable app now for Hex, so you can run your DeFi on your own computer, that's pretty cool too, huh?
Yeah, that's cool. And a lot of people got freaked out about that. I don't know if you guys watched the KDP Gold Key debate.
No, I've been meaning to go back and watch that. Is it good?
I thought it was great. I mean, I think it's, it's one of those conversations that need to be had. It's like, I think, anybody that's been in the community long enough knows that, kind of how KDP is and kind of how Gold Key is. But
I'm excited to listen to that one.
They did a good job illustrating the points. I personally, I think Katie really did a better job of articulating, why it's a good thing. And I think she actually helped Gold Key update his worldview. So I think it was a really good example of why these discussions that you can maybe come in really adamantly on one side or the other, why it's important to have an open mind and talk about this stuff, because it's like a lot of times you're like, oh, wait a minute, okay, I kind of see where we're coming from now, and why this is ultimately a good thing, because it's like it's all about encouraging, the stuff that we beat the drum about all the time: self-sovereignty, taking control of your own financial future, freedom of speech, independence. That's DeFi, right? At its core, that's DeFi. So.
Good stuff.
Should I get a tattoo, like instead of Thug Life, it should be like DeFi Life, like on my belly, my big white man belly.
Yes.
Yeah, just spell it right though.
Yeah, spell it right. Spell it with a Y.
All right. Well, I think I don't know. I know we got a lot more we could be talking about. I don't know where you guys want to head next, but I think the real, again, just recap for me, with Comm, new people, stake, get free Comm, and you get extra Hex with it if you like, and stake that too.
That's cool.
That's the latest Hex tattoo.
That's cool. I like the colors on that. That's great. Man, that turquoise is so bright. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's good work.
There were lots of people commenting. They were like, even if it wasn't Hex related, I would still love it. Yeah, cool. That's good art.
Wonder what the
subtle. It's subtle.
Wonder what the number on the chest means.
I was wondering that too.
286.
Nobody asked that in the comments.
I don't know.
Oh, those are his private keys.
So I don't forget. It's like right there. That's funny. That's funny.
It's not long enough, Crispy, to be.
It was a joke.
To be a pleasure.
Hey, listen, guys, don't get that stuff tattooed on your body. No.
These are the jokes, folks. These are the jokes.
Yeah, we gotta have the disclaimer. Don't actually
Right.
do that.
These are jokes. Let me start now.
Right. I should just have that as a T-shirt that I wear on every stream. That's my own personal disclaimer. These are all jokes. They're just all jokes.
All right. Well, hey, the other thing that I've been talking a lot with people about, and probably sticking my foot in my mouth when I say this, but I'm telling people that are listening to me and follow my channel, hey, listen, if you're listening to me and you think there's any chance you're going to decide to stake 2 years from now or a year and a half from now, don't do it now. Do it now, because I just don't, and I'll show you what I'm getting at. Maddie, you saw this chart? I think you commented on this. Is the estimated dollar chart, what it's going to be costing for TShares. Now remember, I'm of the camp that 10,000x this time around is possible. And what do I mean by that is I think Pulse is a new chain. It is a new chain. Anything can happen. And Hex is a brand new chart on that chain. And there's a lot of confluence around the idea of 10,000x, right? It's built into our community. And I think that we as a community can decide to bring it to 10,000x.
Wow.
Now I'm very, very obviously, I mean, I'm very certain that could also not happen, right? but what I'm getting at is all these adventures with PulseChain, which all these things I never learned before, and I've gotten into some of it thanks to funding Jim.
Yeah, I love Gary. He's awesome.
I mean, it brought to light a lot of things Richard had to say on the way up last time, and it really comes down to the simple facts that we know, guys. This is supply demand. And if there's more demand than supply, price goes up. And if there are people willing to hold while price goes up, and enough of them do, which is us, the community, 10,000x is there. It's possible.
And I mean, on EHEX from the lows, that's only $30. That's not bonkers. It's like there were numbers being thrown around a lot bigger than that. Yeah. Like for Hex back in the day. So it's like, people thinking that it's shot. I mean, it might take a couple cycles to get there, but I mean, I don't see that it's outside the realm of possible.
Well, I got triggered today because I was talking with somebody, and this isn't just today, it happens all the time. And they're like, man, I don't think it's really unlikely Hex is even going to get back to the all-time high. It's only down from here. And I'm like,
oh my God.
I'm like, God, I mean, is that possible? Yes. But I mean, think about this. It literally is our choice by not selling for the price to go up.
Right.
It's really as simple as that. And I know that it's also more complicated. It's who's the first one that's going to dump, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. We do have a lot of inventory, right?
And to add on to like what I was saying earlier about like realizing that I had kind of DCA'd myself into a better break even without really thinking about it a lot. Just by having a good staking ladder and DCAing in this and like actually DCAing during this time. Not like I'm disclosing anything significant necessarily, but what are we from the all-time high? Like what, 50? No, like a 25, 28x, something like that, right? If you'd look at the combined Hex prices. Does that sound right to you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. So my personal break even is less than a 10x.
Oh, yeah.
How'd that happen?
Yeah.
because I'm DCAing and because I've got longer stakes and I'm building up more TShares. And then I had a really good conversation the other night with Papa, and it's like I hate to admit like when he's right, and I'm not gonna give him like full like okay he was right, But my thought, I was starting to rethink staking ladder. Like if I had to do over again, maybe I should have considered market cycles, you know, because my infamous 20 million liquid hex at the top that I chose to restake, you know, I staked it out to where it's gonna, I mean, if we continue with the 4-year cycles, it's gonna fall right in the middle of the next bear. And I'm just like, oh, you know, had I thought that through better, maybe I would have pushed it out a couple more years and been timed out to where it's coming out at the bull, where it'd be more easily absorbed if I was in a situation where I wanted to liquidate some. But he told me, he goes, dude, he goes, I'm doing monthly stakes. That's it, period. He goes, I don't care about the cycles. He goes, whether it's up or down, he goes, I know long-term I'm going to have more hex and the price is likely going to be higher next bear than this bear. So who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know, so I'm like, oh yeah. I'm like that. Yeah, that kind of makes sense, you know, and then that way you're not tempted to EES. You got stuff coming out on the regular. I'm still sticking with my quarterly plan, but I was rethinking it for a minute. Like, hey, if I'm going to restake, you know, maybe I need to think about when's the next bull. You know, I don't want to have a stake coming out in a bear, but when you put his spin on it, I'm like, yeah, just sticking with the tried and true regular staking ladder makes a lot of sense.
Can I speak to that? The
Please.
kind of the minimum viable staking lengths, in my opinion. So if you look at how the penalties work in Hex, the penalties for a 180-day stake or less is always 2.5%. So based on that fact that it's always 2.5%.
Wait, could you repeat that, please, Johnny?
So if the stake length that you choose is under 180 days, which is 4 months, then the penalty for emergency unstaking is always 2.5%. That's the way the math works. It's always 2.5%. And then once you pass the 180-day mark in the stake length you chose, then the emergency unstake penalties start kind of rising parabolically. So based on that, you can consider that minimum viable stake length is about 4 months, because you may never have a problem. Like no matter how high the price goes, you're probably okay with a 2.5% drop in your value, because how often do you see 2.5% drops in crypto? I mean, on a daily basis.
Often.
So
hourly.
just based on that,
is that based on 6 months, 180 days? Is that what you're saying?
180 days is 4 months, right? Wait, I'm sorry, 6 months. I'm very sorry about that.
I was going to correct you. I just don't want to be rude and talk over you.
No, 6 months. Okay, so
I was trying to soft handle that one.
I was going to be like,
yeah, I don't know. I don't know why I got 4 months. This is not something I think about all the time. It's just I do have it in the archives of my head. But yeah, it's 6 months, 180 days. So to me, that is a great minimum viable stake length if you're talking about, you know, setting up your. So, you know, Toby, you said like, why not? It's great. Just have monthly, you know, every month you have a stake that comes out. Well,
I think it's too frequent. I do quarterly.
Yeah,
but Papa was
why
saying
not reduce the amount of gas you're spending? Why not, you know, have less of a headache, and you just make it 6 months? Because what happens is like the maximum damage is 2.5%. So you save yourself some gas fees if you look at that way. You also save yourself some of the headache of thinking about, you know. So minimum viable 6 months.
Yeah, I dropped a link in the private chat. I don't know why the URL is weird now, because I had it bookmarked, but there was a wiki, like a Hex wiki page a long time ago, and it had like the schematic of like the EES breakdown. So I'll drop it in the regular chat as well if people want to check it out. It's going to look strange, so don't think I'm sending you somewhere nefarious. It's an HTTP.
That chart actually is one of the best charts to explain it if you're trying to do the math. That's for sure.
Why bookmark? Because that was.
Let me tell you, doing the calculations on the stupid emergency unstakes, not simple.
No,
it's a what if. You know,
yeah. I had a conversation with Dev Kyle, thinking that there was going to be like a TLDR on that. It's like, no, there's not. It's pretty complicated. Actually, I mean, generally speaking, it's like over 50% of the way you're going to at least retain your principal. But beyond that, as far as like really getting it down. And then the thing people miss out a lot, which is really a shame, big payday. dude, if you started that stake before big payday and you end that stake 1 day early, you don't get the big payday bonus. You get the rest of your yield, but most of the rest of your yield, but you don't get the big payday bonus. Talk about a kick in the nethers.
Yeah, I believe you lose half of your interest if you're even 1 day early.
I don't think it's that deep. I think it's like a graduated scale, and that's where it gets complicated. But the big payday, you don't get any of it. So,
yeah. There's a little.
Well, we'll do that later. We'll do that. We'll say that for another one, Jonni. It's like we'll get too much in the weeds.
I want to talk about this big payday because I think people look at this incorrectly. So I think there's something with big payday where it's something that people who weren't here and staked before big payday, they look at it as something they missed out on. And that is not the case. You did not miss out on big payday. And the reason you did not miss out on it is because if you look at the amount of liquid hex that the OA holds, he holds that liquid hex because of what happened on big payday. And so because he holds that liquid hex, the yields are higher. And so in actuality, you staking now today as a new user and staking long, you are capturing part of what big payday was initially supposed to pay. So I don't know, for those who were here around big payday time, you remember that you may have been a little disappointed that you got a lot less hex than you expected because the OA staked. Well, where did that hex go? It went to the future. And so anybody who is making new stakes today and making them long, they are capturing the future value that big payday created. They are capturing it. And so big payday actually was set up to last forever, not just 1 day. And that's some of the genius that Richard Hart did.
True that.
I like your deep thinking about that.
I have a chart that shows that. It's but it's not updated and I don't have it like on hand. So that's something I can show off later.
Cool. Hey, Axis had a pretty cool thing that he had mentioned the other day. I can't remember what stream he was on. It might have been this one. But he was talking about people doing, larger rolling stakes and then taking the yield from those, like doing, say, a 90-day stake, which, there's shortcomings to that. But he was saying take the yield from that and then use that to throw out max length. And then go in there and generate your comm, rinse and repeat. If you want to do a rolling stake, you're basically paying to build your staking ladder out into the future. And then of course you got to think about PHEX, EHEX, which you want to do and the potential for gas fees in the future and all that. But, and you got to think about how big a stake has to be in order to even be viable, really cost effective, with the current gas fees, right? So like anytime I do a shorter rolling stake, which I've kind of played around with that before, you got to look at how much it costs to start the stake, how much it costs to end the stake, how much hex am I actually earning during that period of time. Am I better off maybe doing a longer stake or just taking that gas money I would have spent and just buy the hex off the market? So it all boils down to the math, on some of this nuanced stuff.
And to get Comm from a rolling stake, the minimum stake length is how long?
Pardon?
180 days.
180 days.
180.
So Toby gave the example of 90-day rolling stakes, but that wouldn't do the trick with Comm.
Right.
So
There's a caveat there. And Codeak, correct me if I'm wrong, but the 180-day stake is only allowed to claim the start bonus in Comm, not the end bonus. You can only collect end bonus if you
for
are
a year.
1 year.
1 year. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I really want you to be a long-term.
Gotcha.
Also,
and I might have added that on to Axis's take on it, because his premise was 90-day stake. If you got a big enough bag, take that to build a longer staking ladder. I might have added in the part about going and claiming the Comm. I don't want to put that on him. But yeah, it's like even if you're doing a yearly stake, just because that's the thing too. Like right with the shorter stakes, obviously we understand bigger pays better, longer pays better. We get all that, but there's that risk element, right? People are nervous. It's like, is crypto going to be? Is the planet going to be here in 15 years? Right? So that's a tall ask to throw. Dude, I threw 20 million hex out into the future. I threw it out there like 6-7 years or whatever to fill a hole in my staking ladder. In hindsight, But you know, at the time, it's like that was kind of a big decision, and I pulled the trigger on it and did it, right? So it's like for people to say, hey, I want to take, you know, $1,000 that could pay my mortgage this month and throw it 15 years out into the future. It's a big ask for a lot of people. So some of these kind of less aggressive strategies are maybe not a bad way to start, because I know without fail with my onboards and myself personally, the biggest regret is not staking longer earlier. But we all learned the hard way. We all started with shorter stakes, and then we figured out like, oh no, I need some big daddies out there to kind of retain my T-share position. So learning curve.
Yep.
Big daddy.
Well, speaking of the T-share rate, ChrispyMan has an announcement.
An announcement.
What?
About the T-share rate.
Oh yeah, it's going up and to the right, guys.
Okay.
Congrats.
What are we looking at here?
Yeah, we'll do a two-parter on this. So this was something that I put together. It's part of my weekly T-share reporting. But anyways, you know, the T-share rate goes upwards and to the right, and RH Max and a few other people were, I forget the guy who instigated the conversation. They're talking about what T-shares might cost during the bull. And you know how a few moments ago I mentioned to you guys that when I'm talking to people, I'm like saying to them, hey, listen, if you think you're going to be staking anytime in the next couple of years, you're going to decide later, at least get your Hex now while it's cheap. So this is back here in 2023. If we go into 2025, just bear with me that I'm saying that we're in a 4-year cycle, we'll hit a top in that time frame. If the top is a 50-cent top, a T-share is going to be $24,000.
Hey.
You know that this is non-adjusted
Crazy.
for longer pays better. You know, or for going out Quattro Cinco. If Hex hits $1, it'll be 48,000. If it hits $5, it'll be $240,000 a T-share.
Jeez.
Now, I don't want to be telling people at this time, hey, don't get into Hex. But it's going to be hard to keep a straight face, really trying to explain to people how they should be buying Hex at multi-dollar and then staking, right? Because it's going to be so very hard. But that is, of course, how the thing works, right? That's how things work. But this just gives you an idea of what these kind of prices could do when it goes up. And I guess I shouldn't comment too much on the adoption cycles. And then if we go into 26, I assume the 90% drop in price. So 50 cents, would drop this down to a nickel, and $1 to 10 cents, and $5 to 50 cents. We would still be at what I consider to be very expensive T-shares, right? In comparison to today's numbers. I mean, we're talking $200 to $400 right now.
Crispy, do you remember the all-time high cost for T-shares?
Yeah, it wasn't roughly like 12 grand or something.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Let me see. I'll tell you exactly what it is.
I love that one because I would go to it and I'd look at it and be like, man, it cost somebody this much money to get how many T-shares I got. So it's like that was fun.
Yeah, so if we go look at Hex daily stats here, hopefully it's going to pull up real quick. And we go down to Ethereum and we find the T-share rate price and put on, it was 9,018. So maybe
I thought it was like 9 or 10 grand. So
yeah, it's still pretty high.
Yeah,
it's still pretty high.
A lot more than an Ethereum.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's this part of it. And then the other thing I thought I wanted to bring up tonight, Maddie, is we do talk about share rate changes quite a bit, and we do have so for anybody who doesn't understand Hex yet or doesn't know this part of it, when a stake is ended, a calculation called new share rate is done on the individual stake, and that's the contract performs that. If the output of that calculation is a higher share rate, that new share rate will be set. And so we do have a change, a 1400 hex change that's kind of in the wings waiting. But the very first one that would bring us up to about 32,000 by the end of the month, it looks like a origin address stake. Can't be confirmed. I really don't know for sure, but it looks like one. And then we have a couple others that come after that. So we may be seeing a big increase soon, but certainly by probably January, we're going to go from about where we are now, 30,300 over 32,000. Just a matter of the timing. And I just know some people were kind of watching that and looking at it. And actually, I have the chart for you. I can show it to you. And here, this is my.
Send that guy a ref link, right?
Hexcommunity.com. If you're the OA, use that.
Yeah, OA, please. So, but you can see as we're approaching here, November 23rd. Right, we have this opportunity to go all the way up to 32,000, and this is on both chains because they're all set. And this has been pre-programmed for quite a long time. And I get a lot of questions about these and how they're going to change. That's kind of what Jonni and I were talking about earlier about this being set in advance. It's not so much that somebody said it was going to be this; it's just that the system's been stewing for 4 years, and this is the result of all that math and everything that's happened and all those actions, is that we may see this big increase. And I know I lose a lot of people when I talk about it, and I'm like, you know, it really depends. So this is our list of share rate changes, and to be a little clearer, I'm just going to pull up this unadulterated log, which starts as of today. Or tomorrow, well, today UTC going out to 2039, and I put them in order by date. And I think, is this big enough for you to see, Maddie?
Yeah.
On your screen. All right. So these are just individual stakes, okay? And there's hundreds of them a day, and so hundreds of these calculations get run, which, by the way, is part of the gas problem. But anyways, that's outside from the point. And so we have all of these ending today. Each one of them has, has a different share rate that's calculated at 30,400, 30,000 for, 427, 30,053, a little bit lower, because all of them experience different types of yield, and the yield is a important part of that. And so the point is, you have all these potential changes that could be taking place, and but they only take place if, number one, somebody actually ends the stake, and number two, if it results in a higher number. So I'm going to change our filter to 32,000, and now my list just got really, really shorter because I'm only looking at the 32,000s. So we have potentially on the 23rd a stake ending that'll bring us up to 3214. Okay. And again, I don't know who BEC8 is. So it could be that this is affiliated with the origin address. If not, and this person comes in and they actually end the stake, we'll go to 32,000 right away. Right. But if the first one doesn't end on the 23rd and go there, and then it goes to the 25th. If the 25th doesn't end, it'll go to the 28th. If the 28th doesn't end, it'll go to the 29th, and then so on and so forth, to the point that you start getting out further and further into next year. And so I've kind of looked at this whole grouping, and I'm saying, well, it seems to me like we'll go to 32,000. But we may not if all of these don't end right away, but eventually one of them will end. One of them will end. And at the very least, when we get out to Valentine's Day, we'll be over 32,000.
And there's some low stake ID numbers in there. As you scroll down, so there's some older ones.
Oh yeah, there's tons of them. There's some tons. Look at that little 5,000. Woohoo!
29, 26.
Yeah, yeah. But I mean, this is because the the way the thing is written, the contract's written, we can go through and do these types of calculations, and they're very accurate near term. You know, a few days out.
Yeah.
But
really
but
cool.
yeah, just so people understand what's happening with it. But yeah, I expect T-share rate's going to go up into the right. News at 11. Let's go. I'll go back to that.
Still works.
It still works. Yeah, that's my biggest joke with all this stuff, right? Because like, what's going to happen with T-share rate? It's going up and to the right. I can pretty much bet on that every day, guys. Bet on it.
Yep.
But gosh, it's an amazing part of our system, because nobody, I don't know why, but nobody ever thought of it before, right? So something of this type of magnitude mechanism, and it just seems so brilliant. It's as important to me as an OG as it is to the new guys and new ladies coming to the system, man. Because a lot of people hear us talk and they're like, oh man, I can never catch up to Toby. But you can. You can.
I'm catchable. Trust me, I'm catchable.
Yeah, because
it's actually Bitcoin that you can't do that in. See, the Hex, this whole argument of like, I'll never be able to catch up to that early investor.
Oh yeah,
that is true in something like Bitcoin in many more ways than it is true in something like Hex. Hex actually gives the user the tools to catch up to somebody, whereas Bitcoin does not. So in Hex, you're using time as the force, the tool to catch up to one of those early investors. So yeah, you have the power to do that, and it's not a good argument to make that you'll never be able to catch up to someone in Hex, because Hex is one of the only cryptocurrencies, I can't think of any other, where that is actually less true. You actually can catch up, and you use time to do it.
Yeah,
I call
it. There's nothing negative necessarily about never catching up, because that's not the goal. The goal is ever increasing value, and if the value is ever increasing, then it doesn't matter that you catch up to an early investor. It matters that you're growing your value, your personal value. So comparing yourself is not going to work as an investor.
No.
Comparing yourself to others.
Kodiak, I think you were trying to add something.
Yeah, I call it paying with patience. You can catch up just by spending patience or being patient.
Right?
I like that.
Yeah, it's like if there's an old guy that you really don't like, just wait. Time is on your side.
Nice, Toby.
If there's an old guy that wronged you, if there was a teacher or a principal that was just a real prick to you, it's like, just give it time. You'll come out. You'll win.
It's a good thing. It's a good
get
thing
off
that
my lawn. Get off my lawn. Well, it's very real situation in Hex. I mean, we've been here 4 years. I have stakes that are ending now that are 4 years old. I wish I didn't have them ending now, because I cannot regain those T-shares. And so for the people that are the newer folks joining us, they just need to understand that that's a reality, right? Because I would have to, this is almost true, but I nearly have to go out 10 years with my stakes to get the same number of T-shares. I have to restake all of the principal and all of the rewards for 10 years just to get the same number of T-shares.
Crispy, there are other projects that tokenize shares. Maybe other people didn't value in the same way, and maybe there's opportunity.
That would be a cool idea.
Who knows?
If only.
Do your own research.
Yeah, right. DYOR. It's something else to think about, because it's like, I know that people get caught up in this. It's kind of a double-edged sword. It's like people that get hung up on, people that are ahead of them financially, right? And I see a lot of people get defeated by that. And it's like, bro, it's like, do you need $1 billion? No, it's like, do you need a 10,000x? Would you be okay with a 50x? Would you be okay with making 50 times more than what you put in on something? And it's like a limiting view. Like they just look too far. It's like I've never been intimidated or bothered by people that do better than me. It's like good for them. Congratulations. I love it. I think it's great. I'm just looking at like being a little bit better than I was yesterday and like setting myself up for a better future. And you know, it's like it just seems like such a myopic way to view the world if you're going to get hung up on those people that are ahead of you, so to speak. And then the other thing too is like the next argument that comes from that whole like, oh, the OGs are, you know, so far ahead, or the one I hated the most is like, all the OGs, the only reason they're still out there talking about is because they just want to dump on your heads. Here's the thing I will never stop saying, because it is true and it is mathematically verifiable. And I did the math on this background. It wasn't even all-time high that I did the math on it. And you guys can do your own research, do the math yourself. Don't listen to my crazy ass. A mid-level dolphin, not at all-time highs, but it was up there, was making $50,000 a year in their hedron. In their hedron, bro. So it's like there's literally a tipping point with like how big your T-share, like your ranking is or whatever, or your how much hex you have, where you would never have to sell your hex. You would never have to sell it. You've got
depends
other
how
options.
long the bear market is.
Right.
Perspective is a big part of this, because, you know, that same new user that looks at the earlier user and says, I'll never be able to catch up, they're not taking into considerations that the limitations that earlier user has. So the limitations that the earlier investor has is limitations on their liquidity and limitations on how they can trade the market, because they don't have the liquidity to fully exit. They'd have to piece it out very slowly, usually. And then the other thing is that if the market catches them trading in and out and trying to scrape value off of, you know, by trading, the market will catch on to that and then just go ahead and send the value down to a lower trading range.
Well, and knowledge too, Johnny. Think about it. It's like, because now someone coming in, there is just a wealth of information out there for people to understand optimizing your strategies, you know, stuff like Hex Fire, you know, just there's so many resources out there now where they weren't in the beginning. And it's like even the thing that Crispy was just showing, it's like, if that's not the OA, that's a perfect example of a guy that didn't understand fucking staking ladders. He's got a stake coming out every 2 days. He's gonna get chewed up on the Ethereum fees.
Hey, wait a minute. Those aren't my stakes, but that's what my staking ladder looks like.
Me too, dude. I've got some coming out like later this year that literally started the first week of December 2019. The first week of Hex that started. I'm gonna get destroyed on the ETH side. And I've got like 3 stakes coming out within like a week. Yeah, I mean, not a week of now, but like a week of each other. That started this like the first week of Hex. So I mean,
if we could have done stakes that ended in the morning and ended at night, we would have done that too.
Right? I've got an hourly staking ladder. I can't wait. I'm going to make so much money with my hourly staking ladder.
You can do that with Time Pays Me.
You can do that with Time Pays Me. It's so silly. That's so funny.
Hey, it's the biggest laugh of the stream. It's awesome.
You can make an hourly ladder, yeah.
That's great, dude. I love it. But that's a ladder that's like not punitive. That would be good to have it drip to you like that, because you're not paying gas.
Well, however, right? It's redundant because Time Pays Me is already giving you a linear payout. So
right.
It's
right.
It'd be more of an advanced strategy, I suppose, if you were stopping yourself from trading every hour or something.
Different behavior modification theories. Oh, goodness.
Oh, funny.
Is there anything else you guys want to hit on before we wrap up this episode?
If I could just show the secret weapon pools, the SWPN pools that are on the PHUX platform. I'd like
I'm going to share
that.
your screen. Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. So the entire goal here of this Comm Hex fusion, this secret weapon plan that involves Comm. So I want everybody to keep in mind that Comm is the coin that supports the plan that I'm calling the secret weapon, and what the secret weapon comes down to, what it all drills down to, is allocations that neutralize the amount of value that is being minted on the Comm side versus what is being burnt on the Hex side. So it optimizes the value and kind of sets up a balanced equation where whatever is being minted from Comm is being burned on the Hex side. And so when you come to PHUX, the PHUX platform at phux.io, you're going to be able to search, filter by token under the pools. So you will want to search for PCOM, and then you'll want to look for the pools that are labeled as secret weapon pools. Okay, and they go in intervals. They go in intervals of 5%. So there's a 5% pool, 10% pool, 15%, all the way up to 100%. So you'll look for these pools, and I'm going to zoom in here just a little bit. And so, for example, we have here the secret weapon 10% coupon rate pool. Okay. And you'll be able to come here and join the pool accordingly. And the reason there's so many of these pools is because each pool has different allocations of how it's set up. So in this case, for the 10% coupon rate pool, there is a Hex allocation of 97% Hex with an allocation in Comm of just 3%. Now, the way that Comm has been trading in relationship to Hex as of late, kind of the trending range in that pricing ratio, has been right now trending between 5% and 10%. So if you wanted to join the 5% pool, that would end up being the lower risk pool than the 10% pool. The 10% pool would be a higher risk pool, but also would give more yield if the price is trending towards that 10%. So just want to lay that out right now. And again, I just want to mention that there's going to be plenty of tutorial videos to come to explain this deeper. So right now, if you don't understand, don't worry. No action required right now until you understand and until you understand how this works and how it sets up your risk levels and how it helps to generate yield at a low risk. So yeah, I just want to mention that. So this is the example of the 10% pool, the 5% pool again. Since we're in that price range, you could find that one right here. Yeah, the pool's value right now, that shows how much liquidity is in there. So the 5% pool currently just has $1,500 in it. It looks like people are more so joining the 10% pool. It has $16,000 in that pool right now. And then I just also want to mention that there is a pool called the Secret Weapon Initial Backing, this pool here. That one has about $50,000 in it, and that was set up as the initial backing for Comm. So yeah, just want to mention that. Also, we're hoping, we're crossing our fingers, we're waiting for eligibility for the PHUX rewards to be paid out for joining these pools. And I think that what's being targeted to be approved for those PHUX rewards would be this pool right here, labeled as Codeak Communis Maxi. Now that one's allocation is a higher risk pool allocation with the Comm at 80% and the Hex at 20%. It currently has $108,000 in value in that pool. So people are actually it looks like they're actually in many ways front running because that would actually imply that they believe that that the pricing ratio of Comm is set up to go up versus Hex. So yeah, that's kind of just a quick overview of that, but definitely more to come. And yeah, don't get too nervous or antsy thinking that you need to rush to do something. I would like it if everybody just kind of waits until things are more understood, more understandable, and I get some tutorial videos out. So there's no rush here. And also this setup between Hex and Comm is not meant to create FOMO. It is not meant to say, hey, let's send Comm to the moon today. It is actually meant to be a rolling snowball of liquidity accruing over time. And then as the liquidity grows, you can step up from the 5% coupon rate, for example, up to the 10% coupon rate. And then as you see that pool fill up to the requirements that I'll get to in tutorial videos, then you can move from the 10% to the 15%. And then the end goal is to reach towards the 100% coupon rate. Or if not the 100% coupon rate, whatever rate that you could consider to be the customer acquisition cost for Hex. That's what I'm looking at this as, because basically we're just looking for efficiency in the market so that we can say, because we know what our customer acquisition cost is, we can have an efficient way of onboarding users, because it implies that if you found the correct customer acquisition rate, then you should be onboarding new users because of that. And so yeah, that's the end goal, is to basically, this is all a speculation on what is the customer acquisition cost. And so right now that rate, the coupon rate, is at 5%, between 5% and 10%. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun journey for us as Hex users, because we have kind of a new little game to play here.
Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks to all of you guys for being on tonight. We can go around the room and everybody can share where people can find more of your content.
I'll go first. I'm primarily on X at Tobiwan_Hexobi, and then by the grace of our dear friend Maddie Allen, part of the Game Theory Gang, on Tuesday nights. Always a pleasure. And Codeak, great to get you out from behind the terminal and speaking to the masses about your super cool token.
Yeah, anytime. Hey, and if you want to talk to me, click Maddie's link and then go look for the Telegram link on the website, and
cool.
Post your questions, whatever you like.
Hexcommunity.com will take you to Codeak's website, and
yep. And the Telegram is t.me/Communis crypto. So I will drop that in the chat so people are going to the right Telegram group.
You can find me on x.com at Jonni Sachs, labeled as my name as it is on the screen. And what I'd like for you to do is, when you get to my page on X, hit the highlights tab under my profile, and you'll see kind of the main points I'm laying out when it comes to this Comm Hex fusion and the secret weapon. So yeah, take a look at the highlights page under my X page. And then take a look at the videos that I'm putting up on my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, you can search Jonni Sachs. That's Jonni space Sachs. And I would encourage you to watch the first video there entitled "The Secret Weapon to Break Crypto." That's a 90-minute video that is a full and comprehensive overview of this Comm Hex fusion and the secret weapon. So I encourage everybody to watch that and enjoy. And yeah, more to come.
Yep. You can find me here at Hexfire.io on YouTube, Maddie's channel. Hey, also, for anybody who's interested, tomorrow we're going to debut Markable's brand new intro for the Hexfire.io site. Best work he's ever done.
Super cool stuff.
For that.
Yeah.
So 10 a.m. for that Eastern time.
Well, huge thanks to ChrispyMan and Tobiwan as always. Thank you so much to Codeak and Jonni Sachs for all that they're doing for the community, and for being on the stream tonight for a generous 3 hours of their time. I really appreciate it, you guys. The show wouldn't happen without guests like you and co-hosts like you guys. So really appreciate you there. People can find all my links at allmylinks.com/allin. You can get a Trezor hardware device from the link in the description below. You can find links to follow all these guys in the description below. And then make sure to claim your Comm tokens by using hexcommunity.com. And until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
Dude, that was epic. I didn't even feel like 3 hours. It's like I looked up, I'm like, what? We've been going for 3 hours?
3 hours. I need to find a pillow.
We're doing live outtakes.